You must be mistaken, kind sir. I'm just a regular guy.
Bullshit. You're a wizard, Donnie.
Jones Grid, I don't want this to come off too autistic, but I just get the sense that you're a really good guy.
Well, thanks for saying that, Donnie. Anywho, you know how your parents are dead? If we don't step up, everyone is going to have dead parents.
That makes me upset, Jones Grid, in a huge way, actually. What do we do?
Let's go get you some school supplies.
These don't seem like regular school supplies.
Oh, yeah, that's because you're not going to a regular school.
Welcome to Tismhart. I am Professor Muskeldorf. Fun fact about me, I'm angry about the way things are going in the world.
I teach potions, but my passion is purging the school of fat kids. They're disgusting, okay?
Class, who can tell me why Billington Gatesum and Anton Faucinius belong in Azkaban?
Happy holidays, Donnie.
It's pronounced Merry Christmas. Semi-related. Your father seems like he is on a first-name basis with the devil.
Pop quiz. Trans women are
weaponized mentally ill men dressed like special needs tramps, Professor?
correct. 75 points to Libertinian.
They're using blood magic, but we've got spells they've never heard of, like 1776 Maxima. That one melts commies' faces off.
We're coming for you, Schwab-Gemort.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I'm your host, Joe Neerman, aka Good Lawgic. Hope your day has been going well. Mine has been okay. For the most part, it was pretty great. The only bad thing is that I found that I lost out Isaac Guerrero. Didn't want that to happen. Wellesley, a regular viewer of the show, because we have the Good Logic Fantasy Football League. Don't worry, I'm not going to spend more than like 30 seconds talking about this. But I do need to show you something, because otherwise you won't even believe me. You won't even believe me. Isaac Guerrero, new running back for the replacing Chris McCaffrey on the 49ers. Yeah, that's right. I bid $10 on him. Look at this. Look at this. Unsuccessful claim because I didn't have waiver priority. If I raised it by $1, really wanted this guy so bad. Very upset. If I just said I bid $10, you wouldn't believe me. That's the actual transaction report. Oh, you didn't see it. You didn't see. You did see it. Okay. Yeah. Not happy. But otherwise, great day. Oh, great day. Part of the great day is something that I did not get to cover. I told you all yesterday I would cover. And did not get to cover, but I still intend to cover. That's a coming. And that's U.S. versus Skermeti. Oral arguments were held today in U.S. versus Skermeti, which is Tennessee ban on trans medical care, trans chemical alterations for minors. And that went all the way up to Supreme Court. I did not get to watch it yet. I still plan on watching it. It was scheduled to last 1 hour long. It ran close to 2.5 hours long, which you have to realize that when I'm covering something, it usually tends to take twice as long. And even if I'm going to like skim through it, like, do limited commentary, still looking at 3.5 hours minimum. And I was like, oof. I was like, okay, an hour or two I definitely would have put into this. I could have put into this today. It's like 3.5, 4 hours that I think this deserves. I'm not saying it doesn't deserve the time. It does. And I plan on giving you that time. However, I didn't have that in my schedule. That was not on the schedule for December 4th, 2024. So, but I do plan on doing that, and I will schedule that. I might have to break into 2 parts because, it's, like I said, it's long. But I do want to share with you 2 different tweets that I saw about this, which I thought were really interesting. The first one comes courtesy of Roger Severino, who shared out here. Comment that Justice Thomas sprung a killer question on the ACLU lawyer. That killer question was, what remedy are you seeking? Strangio, which is a pretty fascinating last name for a trans man named Strangio, trans man attorney, who seems fairly competent. I'm not going to kid you. When I was listening to Strangio argue, the little that I did listen to, I can't deny the fact that Strangio actually, sounds like a fairly competent attorney, but was flummoxed by such a seemingly simple question, said an injunction. Justice Thomas then asked, practically, you would get different treatment based on sex. And the trap was laid. Strangio said the plaintiff, a girl who identifies as a boy, would be allowed to, if Strangio, the trans petitioners who are trying to overturn this law, said that if they're able to get, in that case, a girl who identifies as a boy. So if you're a girl and you identify as a boy, you would get a typical male puberty blocker despite having a birth sex of female. You'll be able to get those drugs. The answer made clear that girls who identify as boys would get a right under the Constitution to testosterone. That's essentially what you're saying. We have a constitutional right to get testosterone, but boys who identify as boys have no constitutional right to testosterone. Oh! That's sex discrimination. That only girls have a right to testosterone, but boys don't. Oh my God. I love this man. Oh, so good. So good. Oh my God. Such a great argument. It's just like, oh. God. Oh, thank God he's fighting for the angels and not for the demons, Justice Thomas. Thank God. Oh my God. Someone wrote, if you come for the king, you best not miss. So that was one moment that I wanted to highlight for you, because I was like, wow, that's insight. This guy is so friggin' smart. I classify Justice Clarence Thomas as one of the top 5 Supreme Court justices of all time. All time. You can make a strong case that he's in the top 3. Strong case that he's in the top 3. This guy is a sharp cookie. Friggin' sharp cookie. Also wanted to share with you on the same case thoughts from Jane Coleman, who did listen to the arguments. Jane Coleman is an attorney who lives around the corner from me, happens to live in the same house as an individual you may well know and love by the name of Ron Coleman. This is his wife, Jane. She writes for, I think, State Street Reporter or Red State. I'm not sure. She writes for someone. I believe I've heard him refer to her as a graduate of Stanford Law, which I'm not sure that's the case, but that is the number 2. When she went there, certainly was the number 2 law school. If in fact that's where she went, number 2 law school in the country. I've only met her once for like 30 seconds. And despite the fact that she's a woman who's an attorney, and normally the practice turns women into like just nearly insufferable. And you can say, is it the practice that turns them into that, or is it those women choose the practice? I don't know. Well, the point I'm getting at is, even though there's a strong reputation, not that it's my opinion at all, but there's a strong reputation that female attorneys are insufferable. Not my opinion. No, not my opinion at all. Not at all. Simply a well-regarded opinion held by many people. The very, very clear exception to that is Jane Coleman. Mrs. Ronald Coleman, a.k.a. Jane Coleman. When I met her, my God, that woman was nice as anything, like ridiculously nice. Happens to have raised a very fine family, several sons who are awesome young men. Anyway, she and Ron together. So Jane Coleman, who Ron refers to as the smarter lawyer in the family, said some quick takeaways from today's Skermetti oral argument. Number one, and this is most pivotal. That's not what I meant to say. Pivotal. Most pivotal is that she didn't sense any crossover from conservative justices Roberts, Thomas, Alito, Kavanaugh, and Barrett. Gorsuch said nary a word. The Tennessee law bans medical interventions, puberty blockers, cross-sex hormone surgeries for the purpose of treating gender dysphoria, and allows the continued traditional use for other conditions such as precocious puberty and the like. Precocious puberty is a reference to some girls have, let's say, at the age of 3, there's a medical condition where some girls at the age of 3 start getting their period. So, and start having development at an unnaturally early age. And so they'll use puberty blockers to delay that, because if a woman gets her period, if a girl starts getting her period 10 years early or thereabouts. And I actually know, when I was younger, like a teenager, a friend of mine told me that he had a niece who had that situation. The problem with that, most particularly, I'm not sure whether that would include development of breasts at the age of 6, which in theory it could, but it also her eggs would start. Women are burning through their eggs. In theory, it could affect her ability to have children, certainly later in life, when she gets into her 30s. So anyway, that is what the reference to precocious puberty. So the Tennessee law allows that type of medical treatment for the purposes of protecting a girl who has precocious puberty. It only bans them for minors. Tennessee's argument is that it's not unconstitutional discrimination. It's not unconstitutional discrimination to say that drugs can be prescribed for one reason and not another. States draw age and use-based distinctions for drugs all the time. I don't have the transcript yet because Chief Justice Roberts asked Prelogar, shouldn't we leave the question to the legislature? Alito questioned Prelogar's sweeping statement about the overwhelming evidence supporting the use of these medical interventions. It was only audio, no cameras, but there you go. Anyway, so it's good. I certainly respect the insight perspectives, and frequently when we watch, one of the advantages to watching the audio of this sort of thing is you do start to get a flavor for where the justices are holding, respectively, based on the nature of their questions. The justices are allowed to ask as many questions as they want during the course of a oral argument, but not all questions are equal, in the sense that you can sense from the tone and the aggressiveness or the nature of a question, like that question we just relayed from Clarence Thomas. You get a sense as to where their thinking is at with respect to potential pitfalls in the arguments that you're presenting. So it is, I am enthused by Jane Coleman's assessment. I assume that she's likely accurate. That doesn't mean I don't want to hear the arguments myself and watch them with you. So I expect to do that. Please sign up to goodlawgik.locals.com so you'll find out when that's scheduled. I don't expect it to be a night show. It'll be like an afternoon thing or a morning thing, but I want to get to within the next week on the outside. So I apologize those of you who are counting on me going through it today. I'm sorry for that. I don't think there's much difference really whether you watch it. If the arguments were conducted last week, if the arguments were conducted next week, that wouldn't change anything. See what I'm saying? It's the exact same thing for all of us. It's the nature of the arguments, it's not like timely news. Like you need to know what arguments from, how the conversation flowed December 4th. It's the same conversation if we're watching it on December 11th. It's like watching something on delay, whatever. Anyway, you get the point. And if you don't, I can't walk you through it any better than that. There's a couple other things I want to get to besides our main topic. The two main topics that I plan on covering today are the decision allowing shareholders of Target to continue in their lawsuit, their collective lawsuit against Target for failing to warn shareholders that they were going to engage in a very aggressive woke agenda in June of 2023, in May and June for Pride Month in 2023. And the resulting billions and billions of dollars in losses, which were foreseeable. So, and that they knew that get woke equals go broke. So there was an application brought by Target to dismiss this complaint, and the court broke down all the reasons why they were allowing it to proceed. That doesn't mean that the shareholders are going to win. They may lose, but this was a tough motion to overcome. There's a lot of bases to knock things out at this stage in this type of litigation, as we'll see. I've highlighted and gone through the decision, and I'm not going to be spending, it's a 43-page decision. I am not going to be spending 45 minutes going through it. We're going to go through this relatively quickly. I'm going to give you the highlights of it, and you'll see that I've color-coded and prepared this. I did a lot of homework on this to make sure I can do this as expeditiously as possible, because I think it's an important breakdown for us to understand why it is that Target lost, why it is petitioners are allowed to, the plaintiffs are allowed to proceed, and what it states about how the knowing disregard for the financial harm in corporations aggressively pursuing woke agenda, which is hopefully it augurs success of other shareholders who may decide to go after those companies for the resulting harm that comes from their decisions to go woke. And at the very least, you have a responsibility to warn the shareholders, hey, we're about to rock the boat in ways that could really destroy our share price. So anyway, that's one element. The other thing that I plan on really focusing on is all of the backlash that and the craziness surrounding Rachel Zegler, the newest Disney princess, who sounds like the last person anyone would actually fall in love with. But don't worry, because Snow White is not a love story. It's not a love story. No, not at all. It's not a love story. No, that's what she says. It's not a love story. I don't need no man. Snow White don't need no man. We're gonna enjoy that. I expect to have a lot of fun with that. Going through all of the anger that is being thrown at she and Disney and the resulting impact of those decisions. Anyway, this is the first time it's happened to me. I've lost those transactions this season. Yeah, I had it at 11 and I changed it to 10 because I was like, I only had like $13 left, and I was like, I really need some money. Very upset. Last one till next year's. It's not the last one. No, we have it during the playoffs also. What about ranking for Scalia? He's up. Scalia is pretty good. He's pretty good. I haven't read as many of his decisions, so I can't tell you definitively. He's pretty good. He's pretty good. Big fan. I'm a big fan of Thomas. Huge fan. I graduated from Iran College with a BS in bio and minor in psych. I'm not sure if you understand biology. What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say? Where are you going? When you say that, because I made the comment about a girl not being able to have kids later on, maybe. I don't know. I wasn't. This is not a science show. I don't claim it to be. And sports, is doing roids a no, male or female? I will say this. I have a lot of thoughts on roids in sports. I have a lot of thoughts on this. I have a lot of thoughts on it. I have strong background in I was an avid sports fan when at the time that Jose Canseco wrote Juiced, all the Barry Bonds stuff, all the talk, all the conversations. I was very big into baseball during that period and during the ensuing years when baseball was cleaning up. Thoughts about, people believing that roids create, more muscle, give you a certain type of, and what types of advantage, and how you could tell who's on roids versus who's not on roids, and all those different things. So I know you're asking a simple question and trying to analogize it to testosterone and puberty blockers and things of that nature, but I actually have very strong thoughts on that. I have strong thoughts on that where my opinions will come across far more libertarian. And I would be curious about your thoughts. I am curious about your thoughts about the whole steroids thing, because my long held belief on the whole steroids in baseball, which I do think is relevant to the testosterone and the impact of bringing testosterone. It's a little different than men competing in women's sports. But I was always of the opinion when it comes to professional sports that these athletes are today's gladiators. They are today's gladiators. If they decide that a gladiator wanted to risk their lives in a society that deems that to be moral, to kill someone else for sport, and they want to risk their lives, that's what the society was deeming to be moral in that time. Does that make it moral? No. Was it ever moral? No. Just because the society believes something does not make it moral. I don't think morality is. I think morality is eternal and unbending. Doesn't change from place to place or from time to time, over the course of time, based on public perceptions of morality. I think that's how you end up having very corrupted societies if you believe morality changes. That being said, though, I think that if someone wants to risk themselves, the same way we allow people to skydive, the same way we allow people to drag race, the same way we allow people to engage in football in general, which could be a dangerous sport, no matter how many protective measures you take. I never really understood why it was that steroids, if someone wants to take steroids, I never understood why they would be precluded from that, which I know sounds very libertarian. But why, if everyone wants to take steroids, all right, is that something you want to give kids? No. Should kids be taking it? No. There's different things for kids. Kids' bodies are developing. If that's what they want to do, they want to inject themselves like a horse with steroids. That's a decision that they're making. So, I don't know. I was always of the opinion that we seem far too desperate to appear moral. I think it's more appearance and morality. I also don't think that everyone, I'm not advocating that you should take steroids, and I've never taken steroids in my life. But I never had a problem with someone taking steroids, and I thought that there was a certain hypocrisy in pretending that we were actually monitoring it at a time when we're definitely not being monitored. Don't tell me Big Papi and what he did there. My God, that guy was juiced beyond belief. But it's like, let's pretend we don't know because we're going to ignore the masking agents. I didn't want to get into a whole steroid thing, though, which is very easy for me to fall down that rabbit hole. Can a child get a tattoo? So now we're talking about two different things here. Let's be clear. There's a difference between decisions a child is making versus an adult. Right? So I don't think a child should be able to get a tattoo. I don't think they should be able to take steroids because I don't think they're able to appreciate the impact. And I also don't believe in trans care for minors as well, because I think that you're not making decisions at a stage in your life where we simply have enough maturity or understanding about the impact of these life decisions on your life. And there's no way you can appreciate the consequences of what you're doing. So if you told me in high school and college you want to ban steroids, I have a lot more sympathy for that position than I do for a 25-year-old. But The three Brown Sotomayor Craig made the last hour arguments unbearable. Did they? Did they, Kathy? I'm not surprised. maybe I'll skip that just because they're the minority. Like, they don't matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's almost like the Kamala voters. Do they really matter? Do their opinions really matter? I don't think so. I don't know. I'll see if I sit through all of it. Although that tends to be, and welcome back, Kathy. Welcome back. I don't know. They're easier to produce content for me as a content creator. It's like easy to just sort of hate and dissect illogic. But yeah. All right. What I'm gonna do is I want to run through. Let's run through this decision. Which target? Target got buried. Like I said, I highlighted this to make it go fast. You were unsubbed? Really? I just saw that you became a new member. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I know you've been here for ages, so. All right, let's get into it. Brian Craig et al. Plaintiffs versus Target Corporation. So when you see green here from me, green, I'm the dark green for me is like established facts that are main key points of facts. The lighter green are things that sort of support those facts. So for me, green is like factual stuff. So in May 2023, let's make this a little bigger for y'all. In May 2023, Target Corporation undertook a children and family-themed LGBT Pride Month, targeting a sales campaign as part of an environmental, social governance, and diversity, equity, inclusion initiative. The campaign focused on displaying Pride Month-related merchandise at the front and center of Target stores across the United States. This resulted in customer backlash and a boycott that plaintiffs allege caused Target sales and stock price to decline. Plaintiffs sued Target and its board of directors, alleging numerous federal security laws violations. Target moved to dismiss. The reason stated, defendant's motion to dismiss is denied. Target hired defendant Brian C. Cornell. He's one of the named defendants in here, even though we don't see his name there. Target began adopting several ESG and DI initiatives. These initiatives were incorporated into Target's corporate strategy and business plan. What type of initiatives? Well, they began a Pride Month campaign in June 2015. Target published a Pride Manifesto. A Pride Manifesto. Let me tell you something. You ever see the word manifesto? Just start with an assumption. Lunatic. Okay, you never hear. No one ever reads. You never read. I don't know. You never read the Gandhi Manifesto, right? I mean, we don't see that. Manifesto is a word which practically means lunatic. So they have their Pride Manifesto, an accompanying video transcript, also an announcement in opposition to North Carolina's transgender bathroom law, which precluded men from using women's bathrooms. And what happened when they did that is they experienced customer investor backlash after both publications. Once they did that, and this is very important, they saw the impact because their knowledge here, we're going to see, is very important. Their knowledge of the impact of going woke equals going broke is a very significant impact on the viability of this lawsuit. Conservative commentators repeatedly warned Target that future ESG, DEI, and LGBT initiatives would cause the company to lose customers. Annual proxy statements and reports in 2021, 22, 23, plaintiffs accused Target of including misleading statements and omissions in those filings. And what they claim was they falsely stating or omitting the risk of, this is the legal argument that the plaintiffs are making, is that they were falsely stating or omitting the risk of customer boycotts from its ESG, DEI, and LGBT initiatives. So that's the legal claim that they're making. They say shareholders, how does that affect them? That's why it's in red here. Shareholders relied on the alleged misleading statements and omissions in re-electing Target's board. Multiple proposals via shareholder vote to reform the board's risk oversight functions and approving executive compensation plans that incentivize Target's officers to implement DEI programs. They end up turning down those proposals. Why they turn it down? Because you didn't tell us what the hell you were planning on doing here. So we actually were talking about trying to get you thrown out, but you hid how woke you were going to go. Following the re-election of Target's board, Target undertook a children and family themed Pride Month marketing and sales campaign in May 2023. What does that incorporate? It's focusing on displaying Pride Month related merchandise at the front and center of Target stores across the United States. What happens next? Customers boycott. Target loses $10 billion in market valuation between May 18th and May 23rd, 2023. 5 days, $2 billion a day in losses on average. Between May 17th and October 6th, Target lost more than $25 billion in market capitalization. You destroyed this company with this stupid initiative. Now they're suing. So we're looking at this motion to dismiss standard. So they say defendants argue this action should be dismissed. What are their arguments by the defendants that it should be dismissed? Well, they say that it's a 10b6 claim. It's a 10b claim, and they failed to plead material misstatements or omissions. B, plead a strong influence of scienter, and C, loss causation. In count one of the amended complaint, plaintiffs assert a claim against defendants for violating Section 10b of the Exchange Act. Right, so that's the statute that they're using as the basis to come after Target. Section 10b of the Exchange Act that prohibits the use or employ in connection with the purchase or sale of any security, any manipulative or deceptive device or contrivance in contravention of such rules and regulations as the SEC may prescribe as necessary or appropriate. So that's what 10b. That's what the law is under 10b. To plead a claim under Section 10b, these are the key elements here. Elements are basically what steps you have to tick off if you're going to win on this case. So you need to have material representation or omission. It has to be made with scienter. Scienter is a fancy Latin term that attorneys use for intent. You have to have knowledge that there's a misrepresentation here or an omission. You have to have, number 3, a connection with the purchase or sale of a security, meaning that the misrepresentation has to be made. Then you're trying to, promote a potential security. And these are different financial statements or announcements. 4, reliance on the misstatement or omission. 5, economic loss. And 6, a causal connection. This economic loss happened because of this thing that you omitted. And you have to know that it's something that should have been kept in there. Claims brought under Section 10b are subject to a triple layered pleading standard. Now, this is why the court is warning that this is a very difficult thing to have a valid complaint that's not going to be knocked out. You have to meet all 3 levels. If you don't meet all 3 levels, your cause of action is done, and we'll dismiss it. You have a triple layer pleading standard that you must meet, otherwise you as the plaintiff will lose and Target would win. What's that triple level standard? Number 1, Federal Rules Civil Procedure 8A2. Number 2, Federal Rules Civil Procedure 9B. And 3, the Private Securities Litigation Reform Act. First, you have to have, to satisfy number 1, that's the easiest part. That's something in every complaint. You have to have a short and plain statement of the claim showing that the pleader is entitled to relief. That everyone meets. That's never the problem. Number 2 is 9B. 9B of the Federal Rules Civil Procedure 9B, which says that you have to plead it with particularity. You have to be very specific as to where the wrong was here. If you don't have a very specific wrong, you lose. So you have to plead it with particularity. And Rule 9 requires that a plaintiff state precisely what statements were made or what omissions were made, the time and place of each such statement, the content and the manner in which they misled the plaintiff, and what the defendants obtained as a consequence of the fraud. You can't just say that they misled. You have to also explain, why did they do this? What was their reason for keeping this out? What was their reason for hiding this from you? To show the scienter element, to show that they intended to do this. They're defrauding you. They're tricking you. They're tricking the public. Why? Why are they doing that? You need to be able to point to that. Otherwise, your complaint dies and you don't go any further. Third, the complaint must also satisfy, and that's the second standard, which is obviously much higher than the first standard. And the third thing you have to reach if you want to go forward is that the heightened pleading standards under the PSLRA. The PSLRA says a plaintiff must specify each statement alleged to be misleading, the reason or reasons why the statement is misleading, and if an allegation regarding a statement or omission is made on information or belief, state with particularity all facts in which the belief is formed, and state with particularity facts giving rise to a strong inference that the defendant acted with the required state of mind. Failure to meet any of these three layered standards results in a complaint's dismissal. So like I said, there's a lot of ways for Target to have gotten out of this, and they failed. Why did they fail? How did the plaintiffs meet this? Where did they overcome this? Again, I expect to be done with this in the next 10 minutes. Do you know, if you're the kind who don't really enjoy hearing a lengthy breakdown, the reason I pre-highlighted this is that we can cut to the essential points here. Defendants claim the Target claims that the plaintiffs failed to plead falsity of 1, the risk warnings, 2, the oversight statements, 3, the value statements, 4, compensation statements, and 5, backlash statements. 5 different statements that they say you can't prove that they were false. So court starts breaking down one by one, starting with the risk warnings. Well, what do we have on the risk warnings? We scroll on down here. How do we get past the risk warnings? So they cite a different case called Find What, and they said, like in that case, Find What. The court simply finds that the defendant, Target, here had a general warning. They had a general warning that in their risk disclosure could be materially misleading because it was not specifically tailored to the risks from their 2023 Pride Month campaign. Because in their warning, they have a very vague reference to the fact that we're going to be involved in ESG and DEI stuff, but they had no disclosure which says, hey, we're going to have a very aggressive 2023 Transgender for Kids Month. So they said, okay, we're going to be dealing with you know, some DEI stuff, you know, and we're going to take steps to mitigate any possible damages. But they were going way over the top with the way they were pushing it. You might have forgotten like some of the steps that they took, but the Target went with, like, you know, bathing suits that help boys tuck. I mean, it was creepy. It was very unsettling stuff that they were doing in May and June of 2023. And one of the only things the court specifies is that the court is not now finding, and they don't have to find this, that the defendant's 2021 disclosure is misleading, because such an assertion would be premature. But we disagree with defendants that we have to say that because you have a general thing, that now protects you from this specific warning that should have been included in there. You can't just say, well, we said we're going to be doing risk assessments and taking different steps to avoid any problems arising from DEI and ESG, when you don't talk about like this crazy ad campaign that you had, which was highly aggressive, and you even referred to it as being highly aggressive. So when you know you're walking down this road towards highly aggressive promotion of DEI and trans rights and pride and all that stuff for children, and you don't tell people that, you just say, well, we're going to be monitoring DEI potential blowback, and you don't say what's coming, that general statement does not, as a matter of law, protect you from what you really should have been including in there. Because anyone could just put in general statements, oh, we'll be doing some DEI work. That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't... probably 75, 90 to 80% of the companies do DEI work. That doesn't mean that they're going to be giving bathing suits for little boys to be tucking their junk, right? I mean, that's a different level, right? That's not. It's one thing to say, hey, welcome to Arby's. It's Pride Month. Versus, here's how we're going to get your 7-year-old to tuck his junk. That's not the same thing. That's not, and it's not the same thing. Everyone knows it's the same thing. It's not. Everyone knows there's a massive difference there. Those are not the same ballpark at all. So when you say a statement like, "Well, we might have some blowback because we have some DEI," that could be like, that we're going to be referencing Pride Month, not here's tape for your 11-year-old to tape down her growing appendage. No, that's a different thing. It's not the same. These are not the same. And that's why they had to disclose it. The report then states that Target's response to crises in Target's position or perceived lack of position on environmental, social, and governance matters such as sustainability, responsibility, or any perceived lack of transparency, they could harm Target's reputation. The disclosure neither mentions Target's upcoming 2023 Pride Month campaign, nor Target's plan to avoid any potential reputational damage or control negative publicity associated with the campaign. The report then discusses how negative incidents involving Target's reputation can quickly erode trust and confidence in its business manner and can result in customer boycotts. The disclosure mentions a general example in relationship with CVS. It states that if guests have a negative experience with CVS, it could harm Target's reputation. The disclosure ends with a general statement saying, this is the disclosure that Target made, that the negative reputational incidents could adversely affect Target's business and result in operation. But that's not nearly specific enough given the aggressiveness of the campaign. Here, the 2021 risk disclosure accounted for general risk, but it failed to account for the specific risk that Target's upcoming 2023 Pride Month campaign or previous campaigns champion could cause customer boycotts and a loss of sales. The amended complaint alleges that Target knew the risks of the 2023 Pride Month and that generic risk disclosures are inadequate to shield defendants from liability for failing to disclose known risks. You cannot just omit known risks. That is unfair to shareholders and potential shareholders. Then they go through the 2022 report. These are different reports that Target made to try and comply with its disclosures of like, hey, shareholders, here's a heads up. Here's a heads up, and the complaint is these disclosures sucked. They failed. They were inadequate. They were omitting really important pieces of information, which would have warned us, don't you dare possibly invest in us because we're about to destroy our own company. So since their failure to specifically tell their shareholders, hey, we're about to destroy Target. Everything you know about Target, all the things about how it's like, the one-stop shop and get everything you want and competing with Walmart. And we're just like, we're about to flush all that down the toilet by basically alienating every parent we possibly can and filling the store with just a bunch of woke Karens who are living by who are suffering from Munchausen by proxy syndrome. And trying to shove Timmy into a dress made for Tina. Nothing in the second paragraph, and they go through the specific language. And again, in order to expedite this, I'm not going through the specific disclosures and language. I'm just reaching the findings of the court. They say that with respect to that disclosure, nothing in the second paragraph discusses the risk that Target's ESG and DI goals could lead to investor backlash and a loss of sales. Defendants failed to mention specific risks of its upcoming 2023 Pride Month campaign, and they never told anyone it was coming. That was the problem. Shareholders' knowledge of the Pride Month campaign risks. Well, because Target could say, look, it's true. We didn't specifically say that we're going to be engaging in it, but we had no way of knowing what would happen. We didn't know that this was going to result in some sort of backlash. Unless you can establish, at least in your complaint, you have to at least make the allegation that we knew, we had reasons to know that this is going to blow up in our face. We don't have an obligation to disclose anything. So now the court gets into the shareholders' knowledge of the Pride Month, of the risks associated with the campaign. An omitted fact is material if there's a substantial likelihood that disclosure of the omitted fact would have been viewed by the reasonable investor as having significantly altered the total mix of information made available. A plaintiff wishing to preclude the defendant from statutory safe harbor. And this is sorry, I skipped something here. The court says the plaintiffs have adequately pleaded the information revealed in 2021 and 2022 risk disclosures may not have been complete. Now, again, this is not a finding that they're not complete. It's simply that their complaint suffices to establish that there is an incompleteness to that. And adding to that, the court finds that based on the totality of information available to investors, it is premature to dismiss the case. Because that's the standard we're at now. If, in fact, they can establish these things, the plaintiff would win and Target would lose. So we're not saying that they've established it, but they have enough here in the complaint that they're alleging that if they would succeed in proving these elements, they would win. According to the court, declines to dismiss plaintiff's amended complaint on the grounds that investors knew of the risk of the 2023 Pride Month campaign. Then they look at the forward-looking statements, which is a statement of plans and objectives of management for future operations. A plaintiff wishing to preclude a defendant, because what happens is when there's a forward-looking statement, that it provides a safe harbor for such statements, making them not actionable. A plaintiff wishing to preclude defendant from statutory safe harbor must prove that forward-looking statements were made with actual knowledge that they were false. So when you write something, when it comes to a forward-looking statement, and a forward-looking statement is just another release from Target, the form of a release from Target. So in order for it to be actionable, in general, they're not actionable. But unless you can show that they had actual knowledge that the statements are false and misleading. Not just an omission, but there has to be actual knowledge that the statement itself is deceiving the public. Plaintiffs have pleaded facts showing the defendant's statements were made with actual knowledge that they were false and misleading. Further, the witness states that first they already had information suggesting the customer backlash. Also, the witness states that Target's corporate mantra now was to stick its nose so far out, even at the risk of alienating certain customers and without thinking if the campaign went too far. They have witnesses, as alleged in the complaint, that they're planning on bringing witnesses that Target's corporate mantra now, that this is what we're doing, is that we are going to be sticking our nose all the way out, even if it risks alienating customers. Astonishing. Yeah, they have more quotes on that. Plaintiffs also alleged in the amended complaint that Eric Thompson, the senior segment strategist for LGBT and Pride Target, shared a social media post stating, "Time to whip out glitter and hellfire flamethrowers and rip the old world to shreds, darlings." Gosh. The commentator responded to the social media post asking Thompson if his LGBT plan would hurt Target's sales. Thompson responded, yes, I will make sales tank. Oh my God. Now, to be fair, at trial, I anticipate that he's going to say I was being sarcastic. It was a joke. Obviously, I don't want to make sales tank, all that other stuff. But at this stage of the litigation, at this stage of the whole process, when we're trying to assess whether or not this is a viable complaint, his words here have to be taken as being literal. And he's like, yes, I care enough about Pride that I am going to make sales tank. Was he sarcastic? I don't know. Was he serious? I don't know. But what I do know is that if you're looking at whether or not the complaint should be dismissed, and now you see a statement from their senior segmentation strategist saying, I will make sales tank, That shows knowledge. That at the very least, and even if he is joking, even if it is a joke, which maybe it was, I have no, or maybe he was, I really have no idea. It shows that there's this awareness that this is a very real possibility that some folks are thinking it's going to tank. Defense contend the risk disclosures are actionable only if plaintiffs show the speaker knew the disclosed potential risk was already occurring or virtually certain to occur. They say that the plaintiffs do not and cannot contend that at the time the risk warnings were issued, Target or Cornell knew that backlash to the 2023 Pride collection was occurring or was virtually certain to occur. They plead that past LGBT campaigns, the plaintiffs plead precisely plaintiffs plead precisely that. They say that the LGBT campaigns harm Target's reputation and sales. That's the whole point. Specifically, plaintiff mentions Target's reaction to North Carolina's 2016 transgender bathroom law, which Target rigorously opposed. North Carolina in 2016 said, we're banning men going into women's bathroom, women going to men's bathroom. Target made a public statement saying, we don't support this law. North Carolina, you're a bunch of freaking transphobes. We don't like you. You're terrible people. The plaintiffs point out that after Target did that, more than 1.5 million people pledged to boycott Target over that policy. Just over the bathroom stance, more than 1.5 people were targeting to play. Just over the fact that they wanted to allow men and women to use each other's bathrooms. Plaintiffs included a Wall Street Journal analysis of Target sales for the 3 quarters following the bathroom reaction, showing 3 quarters of declining sales. These facts demonstrate that if it is plausible that defendants knew or should have known that a new and more aggressive Pride Month campaign posed a risk of backlash and financial repercussions. Further, confidential witnesses say that decisions about the content of the 2023 LGBT Pride campaign were made at the senior executive level. This was not just some rogue campaign strategist. No, they knew. These folks knew. And they saw it as their role to push the envelope on social issues. That's our job. We're Target. Our job is to change how America thinks about like this whole kids transing thing. Is that what your shareholders think? I don't think so. Plaintiffs alleged that Cornell knew about the board's lack of oversight of ESG DI risk because he managed a senior executive team that pushed the campaign without regard for risks. That these facts demonstrate that it's plausible, which is all we got to establish right now, that the risk disclosures were knowingly false. And you didn't mention anything about this. And they go through the oversight statements. Proxy statements also delegate responsibility for social and political issues. I'm going to try and move a little faster at this point. So I think I'm past my 10-minute deadline. Then they get into the whole scienter issue. To plead a strong inference, scienter section 10b requires a showing of intent to deceive, manipulate, or defraud, or severe recklessness. What's recklessness? That's defined as a highly unreasonable omissions or misrepresentations that involve not merely simple or even inexcusable negligence, but an extreme departure from standards of ordinary care, which is likely to has a danger of misleading buyers or sellers, which is either known to the defendant or is so obvious that the defendant must have been aware of it. And they talk about the scienters of defendant Cornell. This guy was brought on as the chairman of the board for Target. They say that Cornell are acting with scienter. This is their claim because, one, he had a motive to mislead, and they bring down 3 reasons here. 3 different reasons that he had intent to do this, that Cornell himself had intent to do this. They bring down, the plaintiffs brought down 3 reasons. And I'll tell you something. The court accepts reason number 1 as not proving scienter. That's not enough to show scienter. Reason number 2, not enough to show scienter. It's the third one. The third one is what sinks Target, because they got to show at least one of these 3 reasons is how we establish that Cornell, the chairman of Target's board, was acting with scienter. The third one is that he knew that the 2023 Pride Month campaign resulting customer backlash because he oversaw Target's response to North Carolina bathroom law, where he admitted that Target didn't adequately assess the risk of backlash. So we're going to jump on down to number 3. The court spends a great deal of time, which it shows you that this court was really sincere in trying to apply the law appropriately. This is not an activist judge trying to make a point. It's like, no, this doesn't prove it. This wouldn't be enough. Number 3, there you have it. There you got to it. As to the defendant's third argument, you can see each of them. They say, accordingly, the court finds defendant's second argument persuasive. We agree with the defendants on the second argument. We agree with Target on the second argument. But as to the third argument, the defendant that Cornell's awareness of prior publicity known anti-ESG backlash does not show that he intended to deceive investors. The court finds this argument unpersuasive. Plaintiffs have pleaded that Cornell had knowledge that prior LGBT campaigns led to backlash, such as Target's opposition to North Carolina transgender bathroom law. The reaction caused 1 million people to boycott. Sales fell for the next 3 quarters. And that's how plaintiffs have adequately pleaded scienter. So that's how we have scienter on Cornell, and the scienter of the agents of a company have to be imputed to the company. Corporations do not have their own state of mind when it comes to a scienter. So how do we get a scienter for a corporation? Well, we take the chairman of the board scienter and we say that now is embraced and adopted as Target Corporation's scienter. So that's how Target gets on the hook for it, because once you establish Cornell, now you get Target. The defendant's next claim is that plaintiffs have failed to plead loss causation, that it was a result of this, that, yeah, we got hit with losses. You can't prove it's because of trans. You never proved it's because of trans. No one knows because of trans. Yeah, good luck with this one, Target. All right. The loss causation element requires that defendant's fraud be both the but-for and proximate cause of the plaintiff's later losses. So, but for your transgender thing, and this is what caused the loss. If you didn't do the whole transgender thing, we wouldn't be hitting these losses. It's not this is a recession issue. No, this is it. And without this, nothing, no problem. So, as stated previously, the court finds the defendant's general warning and the risk disclosure could be mysteriously misleading because it was not specifically tailored for the risks, and that plaintiffs and other shareholders did not know that Target planned to aggressively promote a new LGBT campaign prior to the campaigns led to immense backlash. Importantly, plaintiffs pleaded that the 2023 Pride Month campaign was the most ambitious and extreme campaign in Target's history, featuring more extensive marketing and products than ever before. Accordingly, the court declines to dismiss the amended complaint on the ground of 2023 campaign backlash did not relate back to misrepresentation, because they're saying it didn't relate back to that. No, this definitely did. Here's an interesting argument that the defendants made. They said that, well, we put this campaign, and it was reported in the media on May 12th, and the stock drop occurred on May 17th. But between May 12th and May 17th, when we announced it, the stock went up. So since it went up, you can't say it's because of the trans thing. Court isn't buying that. So the defendants are basically saying, you can't say it's caused by the trans thing when as soon as the trans thing comes out, the stock price goes up. So there are other reasons why it went down, not because of that. But what they point out is plaintiffs cannot plead loss because plaintiffs allege that relevant facts grew over time. In their amended complaint, they cite articles from May 24th, May 28th, June 1, June 2nd, and that due to those articles and the market progressively realized the scope and intensity of customer backlash from May 17th to June 14th. Meaning the market is responding to what the public is saying about this campaign. So the stock market, when they're talking about the market, is reacting to all these people freaking out on X or Facebook or other platforms and saying, what the freak is wrong with Target? So yeah, it might have gone up for the first couple of days, but as more reports come out and more stories revealed about how outraged everyone is, that's why everything started tanking. This is sufficient to show the facts relating to Target's 2023 Pride Month campaign gradually became known over time. Accordingly, plaintiffs have adequately pleaded that Target stock dropped after customer backlash, but for that, then that was the actual causal factor there. And that's why, in conclusion, the court says, to summarize, the court concludes that plaintiffs have adequately pleaded both Section 10B and Section 14A claims. I didn't really go into the 14A claims, but I sort of bypass those because once they survive, they survive. For the reasons stated above, the court finds the defendant's motion to dismiss, Target's motion to dismiss, is denied. Court now lifts the stay of this case. It's probably a stay on discovery, I assume. The clerk of the court is directed to lift the stay and move forward with the case. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Take them down. Take them down. Well, essentially what the court is saying there is you knew, Target, you knew that by going woke, we would go broke. And you didn't tell anyone that you were going to be engaging in this very aggressive campaign of going woke. You experienced that when you had 1.5 million people boycotting you after you took a stance on a state law issue in North Carolina, that you got to boycott 1.5 million people, and then you don't tell your shareholders that you're about to have the biggest, wokest, craziest, most aggressive, let's all change our kids' bodies campaign, and you don't tell your shareholders that you're going to be doing that, and you think that like you have some general thing, hey, we might be doing some DEI stuff, and that's enough? No, that's not enough. That's not enough. You caused the stock price to drop. And you had to warn people that you're going to be going down, make all of a sudden this, not just like a left turn. This is not a left turn. This was just like, whoop. That's what this was. And you had a duty to warn your shareholders. I really hope they get destroyed. I hope they get destroyed. Because you know what? Get woke, go broke. All right. Steroid up athlete has unfair advantage of the equivalent to trans competing in women's sports. Also, I disagree with you on that. I disagree with you because other people could steroid up also. They could. Roid rage is real. They're a danger to everyone. When I take steroids for breathing, oh my God, run. All right. Look, I don't. I'm simply saying, if someone wants to take steroids to enhance their performance, if they were all taking steroids to enhance their performance, no one would think it's cheating, right? If they were all taking steroids to enhance their performance, then that's just the way the game is played. That's the nature of the game. That's just next level sport. So, and one of the things that's, when we're doing the whole steroid impact on sport thing, a lot of big mistakes that people made when they were trying to defend how it wasn't that big an advantage, because it is an advantage. I mean, all you gotta do is look at it. All you gotta do is look at Barry Bonds. I mean, great player, but just otherworldly, like legend. He went from really, really very excellent player to greatest baseball player, most dangerous hitter of all time through steroids. And what people don't appreciate is it's not just more home runs. No, it's also when you make contact with the ball and the bat's on top of the ball, that ground ball is hit harder because of the steroids, more likely to get through. your batting average is going to go up. You're going to have more line drives because you're just hitting the ball harder than you otherwise would be. So it's not always that it's leaving the park. That will happen. That will likely happen too. But it's also that even balls that are not elevated are just they're getting through the infield an extra quarter of a second faster. And that's all the difference between whether or not a shortstop can make a play on the ball or not. So your batting average goes up. It has dramatic impact across the board. And it helps pitchers too. There's no question. I'm of the opinion, you know what? If that's what they want to do across the sport, if that's what they want to do, you want to be able to throw a ball faster, throw a ball further as a quarterback. You want to be able to have greater endurance, chasing down a wide receiver as a defensive end. I don't understand the world. If that's what they all want to do. Now, society wants to say, no, we don't do that because it's cheapening. Okay, look, you want to tell me that it's a danger to their health? If they decide they want to do it, they all decide they want to do it. No one would think it's cheating. It's just that we decide as a society they shouldn't be doing it. You see what I'm saying? Is there a basic inherent morality towards saying they shouldn't be doing it? I don't know. I don't understand the argument. I don't get it. I understand you can try to justify this is why society got rid of it, because these people become maniacs if we let them have it. I understand that. I'm simply saying, okay, that's true. Perhaps you would know better than I do. I never took steroids. When I had a little kid who, when my oldest boy, he had asthma problems when he was a kid, like a year or two, and we gave him steroids. I didn't happen to notice any difference in his mood swings as a result of that. He had very serious asthma problems, which it's interesting. He doesn't have asthma anymore. He hasn't had asthma in 15, 20 years. But you do have to paint like Da Vinci. Not even sure. Was today the review for Good Lawgic LLC versus Lawgic? No, it's on December 6th. It's on Friday. AOC is running for president, and she should. So let the high school kids take steroids to get scholarships. I said that there's a distinction between adults and children. An adult can make an informed decision as to, like, this is what I want. Let's assume that taking steroids for an extended period of time would cause someone 10 years off their life. And someone decides that's what we want to do. Okay, that's the decision they make. If working in a coal mine takes 10 years off your life, and someone can make a decision they want to do that too. And that's not something anyone is like, no, they shouldn't be allowed to do that. Well, there's a lot of different jobs a lot of different roles we take in life where we're making risk assessments as the impact it's going to have on our health, and society just says, okay, that's the decision you're making. And one area that we don't allow them to do that is in professional sport. And I never really understood why that would be. But high school, I would say even college kids should not be allowed to take it. In college, I can understand that too. You want to tell me that at age 25, after their brains are fully mature, that's where they can make that decision? I can accept that. The whole era of baseball was riddled with steroid use, Bonds, Canseco, McGuire, etc. It's much more than them. Much more. First of all, after that whole exposure came, Rafael Panera and all that stuff, why Congress got involved with that was just the biggest joke in the world. Look, it's your job. Like, what are you doing about it? Other than having your 15 minutes of fame while you're grilling Mark McGuire while he's standing up there crying. Stupidest thing in the world. Was Barry Bonds a D-bag? Yeah, he was. You tell me everyone knows Roger Clemens. Tell me it didn't have an impact? Of course that has a great impact. But here's the thing. so many people were taking masking agents, so we didn't even know. So what you end up having is that now we're doing a random testing, and that was ridiculous. That was a joke. That was a joke. You could almost invariably tell. When I was in a keeper league, okay, a keeper baseball league for years, like 10 years, maybe more. And there was a guy in that league who was a genius, and he was like basically speculating about people in their contract years that they would use steroids and just get better. And then after you get the steroids, most athletes were not sufficiently concerned about maintaining that level of play, and they would stop taking steroids. And he would basically try to pick players based on which are the ones who, based on what we see about their personalities, are most likely to be taking steroids. Especially during a walk year. So you get a big payday for having a big, massive year that year. You get a multi-year contract worth an extra 80% sometimes just because you had a big year. So, and then once you get the contract, all right, I'll go take myself off the steroids. As opposed to just using steroids all the time. Don't tell me that Fernando Tatis wasn't using steroids. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Of course he was. Of course he was. No one ever accused him. But, yeah. I'll tell you right now. You asked me about heart of hearts, one of my favorite players of all time, Mariano Rivera. I think the guy probably used steroids. No one looks at it because he looks like a little stick, so you don't think he is. I assume he did. I mean, the guy was just able to the people who have arms that are just like they just seem to never fall off. You have to assume during the steroid era. I understand, we can look at him and say maybe he's the Nolan Ryan of this generation. Nolan Ryan was in the pre-steroid era, and he had an arm which just seemed like it was made out of rubber. How he could just keep going and going and going. I'm sorry, I'll never believe that Randy Johnson wasn't using steroids. Kurt Schilling wasn't using steroids. I think they all were. Everyone knows Luis Gonzalez, and he was never even accused. That guy was jacked beyond belief. Anyway, we could spend a lot of time talking about this. You should check out the Delaware versus Elon Musk Tesla stock case. Will crazy judge just decides he was too rich and vetoed shareholders' wishes twice. I started looking at it. It cost him like $50 billion, something insane, right? I think $56 billion, like basically Twitter. Like what he paid for Twitter is what it cost him, which is insanity. I expect he'll probably do well on appeal. Barry Bonds saw that McGuire and Sosa were doing, asked what they were on, copied them. He was 10 times player of the day, where MLB was still recovering from the 94 strike and turned a blind eye. Everything Philip Congans wrote here is 100% true. Yep. Everything he wrote here. Everything he wrote here. And Barry Bonds was impossible to get out for 1 or 2 seasons there. Impossible. You want to know how dominant Barry Bonds was? He was walked in a game in the 9th inning. I think it's Foolish Baseball does some great videos breaking down like legendary incidents or years and different fascinating things about baseball. I highly recommend the channel. It's called Foolish Baseball. They showed how this guy was walked with the bases loaded and I think the Diamondbacks had a 2-run. I think they were playing Diamondbacks. Had a 2-run lead, and I think 2 outs in the 9th, and he came to the plate, and they walked him to walk in a run because they were like, no, and move like the tying run 90 feet closer, just because they were like, we can't get him out. We cannot get him out. Chances of getting him out are very, very slim. So we're just gonna walk in a run. That's insane. It's insane. But it was also probably statistically the smart move. That's how amazing he was. In a sport where 2 out of 3 times you come to the plate, you get failure. He was more likely than not to have success. I mean, it was crazy. Joe, the steroid your boy took are corticosteroids, not anabolic steroids. Apples, oranges is confusing to non-medical people. Oh, okay. All right. I defer to the doctor, the New York doctor. My state Tennessee is taking a stand against the insanity. Amen. Amen. Bond's the best player in the last 50 years. Sad thing is he would have been a first ballot Hall of Famer without the last 5 seasons of career on roids. It's true. It's true. Put him in. But AMI is see it as poison, and now pros want that in the body, so allowing it creates uneven playing field and puts pressure on those who think it's dangerous. All right. Being a cop is dangerous. Not everyone wants to do it. You can choose to do it. There's certain dangers associated with it. If it was something that was just assumed to be part of the risk of going into that endeavor, you can decide whether or not you want it. It's worth it to you. You're making an educated decision. If it was something that 90% of people were using steroids, no one had to hide it. 90% of people were using steroids. So, yeah, it would be something that you have to choose. Is this something you want to do or not? There's a lot of upside into becoming like a great baseball player or basketball player or football player. And there's some downside. I'm simply saying if there's something that society was like, okay, then no one would think it's cheating. And then it's just like people would just make a decision for themselves. You could even say you could start doing it at age 25. And people can make that decision for themselves and not beforehand. So you have your proving ground in, high school and college. And then, you get to a certain age and boom, there you go. All of a sudden, you have Howard Johnson hitting 50 home runs or Brady Anderson hitting 50 home runs. Pete Rose belongs in the Hall of Fame more than the steroid crew. Also, Bonds is a first-class A-hole. I agree with both of those things. When are we doing that dance-off? What dance-off? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not even sure what that means. Let me make sure I didn't miss any rants in the ghetto. We're good over there. Can we start talking about Rachel Zegler? Rachel Zegler? Because there's lots to talk about with Rachel. Lots to discuss with Rachel. Actually, before I do that, we're going to pause and cover a few side stories before I get to Rachel Zegler. Rachel's going to be a fun story to cover. We're going to have a lot of fun with that. There's a few things that you all should be aware of. Number one is Mitt Romney said goodbye today. Mitt Romney said goodbye today. Here he is.
There's some today who would tear at our unity.
Ho. You see, this is who are you referencing with your some today? Some today who would tear at our unity. There's some yeah, because I know you're not talking about the actual people who would tear at our unity, which is Chuck Schumer, which is AOC, which is Nancy Pelosi, because they're tearing at our unity. But I know you're not talking about those folks. I know you're not, because you're some cuck neocon warhawk who has the ultimate Washington insider, the biggest failure of the Republican Party this side of Liz Cheney. And yeah, you're sitting here saying, the truth is there's so many failures in the GOP. There's Murkowski, Susan Collins, Adam Kinzinger. But you rank up there, top 10.
Who would replace love with hate?
Love with hate.
Who deride
love with hate. Who's doing that? Who's doing that? Jackass.
tear at our unity.
Well, there's some
today who would tear at our unity, who would replace love with hate, who deride our foundation of virtue, or who debase the values upon which the blessings of heaven depend. Now, I've been in public service for 25 years.
And we can't wait for you to leave.
I have learned that politics alone cannot measure up to the challenges we face. A country's character is a reflection not just of its elected officials, but also of its people. I leave Washington to return to be one among them and hope to be a voice of unity and virtue.
Go away. Go away.
For it is only if the American people merit his benevolence that God will continue to bless America. May he do so, is my prayer.
And I agree with him about, praying for God's blessing for America. That doesn't wash away the stain of all the other crap that came out of his mouth. God. Don't like that guy. Don't like that guy. I do not like that man. The other thing I wanted to cover with you is I want to express my kudos to Megyn Kelly, who's awesome. And one of the things I like about her and have a deep respect for is there's a lot to like and respect about Megyn Kelly. A lot to like and respect about her. I can sit here fanboying over her work and the way she's able to ask questions and get unique interviews and some of the takes that she does. But I actually want to give her accolade for the fact that unlike many other content creators, I have never once, ever had any issue with YouTube copyright claims from Megyn Kelly. And a lot of people in her position would hit me with claims and other things of that nature, and she never does. And that is the mark of someone who actually just cares about getting information out there. So I say to you, Megyn Kelly, God bless you, and keep up the amazing work. And with that, I want to just spend a few minutes watching her interview with Pete Hegseth from earlier today, where I'll tell you now, after watching this interview, I feel very confident that despite all the claims that have been wrongfully thrown at Pete Hegseth, that he will ultimately be confirmed by the Senate. This is an important appointment by Donald Trump. Let's hear a little bit of this. And
it's been an all-out assault since Trump named you.
No doubt.
From alleged rape allegations to allegations about your marriage to financial mismanagement allegations at your companies that you ran, your foundations, I should say. How's it going with Trump right now? Is he so far standing by you, and have you spoken to him?
I spoke to him this morning, Megan. He's amazing. He's a fighter. He's been through this himself. And he told me the last thing he said to me, two things he said to me when I left his office when he chose me was, besides what he said about being a warfighter, we can get into that, was you're going to need to be tough as shit. You're going to need to be tough as shit.
Yep.
But he paused again as I was walking away and said, but you're the man for this moment. I chose you because you're the guy that's going to put the warfighters first.
This is what I want to hear.
We haven't had that. We need a guy that's kicked down doors and understands the consequences of war.
Kick down friggin' doors.
Us deterring war, fighting it, and winning it is important to him. He gets it. And we can get into the policy of all of that. But ultimately, he reiterated the same thing this morning. Hey, Pete, I got your back. It's a fight. They're coming after you. Get after it. I think he'll be delighted that we're talking today. Yeah. And we're going to do more talking because for so long, what was said about me, what has been said about me, it was so ridiculous and all anonymous that we didn't want to give it oxygen. You don't want to respond to things that don't merit response. And so we have it, but the sitting here with you and going forward, the media is driving with this ridiculous narrative. It's our time to stand up and tell the truth and our side. And he knows that. And so he supports me. I won't betray what we talked about specifically, but he said, you go meet those senators and I've got your back. It means a lot to me. Tells you who that guy is.
So you are meeting with them. Any open wobbliness there? How do you like your chances right now?
Donald Trump won overwhelmingly, 76 million votes. He's got 53 senators, all of which understand what the American people voted for. They voted for the change that Donald Trump is going to bring. And they knew in the picks that he's made, he's bringing in change agents. If you wanted another
Yep.
general or another admiral or an executive or a CEO or a politician or a lawyer to run the Defense Department, we've tried that before. He said, I want a warfighter. I want.
I'm glad someone brought up the brown shoes. I'm glad someone brought up the brown shoes. I'll tell you right now. I cannot wear brown shoes. I can't wear brown shoes. I can't. I won't. But that does not mean that I disagree with the point that there's something like exuding confidence with the brown shoes. Now, the reason I can't and won't is a cultural thing. First and foremost, Lady Lawgic would lose her mind if I got brown shoes. She would lose her mind. Lose her mind if I got brown shoes. Because in my culture, it's something that everyone would just sort of look at me like I'm trying to get people to look at me. But yeah, I happen to agree, and this is a relatively recent perspective that I have, that brown shoes are cool, but I won't ever wear. And I agree, Trump has to stay strong in his defense. That's a very important thing. Let me just grab a couple of these. Isn't that like get the vax to work? No, it's not. Steroids not at all making get the vax to work. I assume that's what you're talking about, steroids. I worked with police officers who took steroids and they were very aggressive. And Adrian agrees with you that you're on steroids, you're a ticking time bomb of rage. It's the girlfriend's kids, guy in the street who is looking at you, pays for them taking the steroids. It's bad stuff. I don't know. Mitt has always been horrible. I didn't vote for him for president. I voted for Alan Keyes because Mitt is so terrible. Keep up the good work, Joe. Thank you.
Lethality.
Give me Isaac Garendo.
Readiness, accountability, standards, warfighting. Pete, that's you. That's me. Clean house of the woke crap. All that stuff, all the climate stuff and the CRT and the DEI and the genderism and get rid of it. Let's bring the Pentagon back to the people, the people's Pentagon for warfighters. And that's the message he gave to me that I've projected back to senators, and it resonates. When I get a chance to sit down, especially with these senators from the Senate Armed Services Committee, that's the committee I'm talking to. They care about the military a lot. They've run for office, spent their lives trying to invest in it. So the advise and consent process is a real thing. Like, I'm hearing from these men and women, these senators who have great ideas, want to make sure that when I'm confirmed, we're able to implement them at the Defense Department.
They're worried about the military and the country and not necessarily your love life.
No.
Or your mom.
Or my mom, who did a fantastic job on Fox and
We're
Friends.
going to show some of it.
If we all went back 7 years,
Her mom, there was, in case you missed it, there were reports out there that her mom sent an email 7 years ago to Pete, castigating and yelling at him for how he treated women. And everyone's trying to say his own mother hates how he treats women. His own mother thinks he's a terrible human being. His own mother. So earlier today, this is Pete's mom on Fox News explaining the context of that email, and that's not how, and that she took it back that day. She sent 2 emails that day. The first one was, the first one was indeed castigating him. The second one was apologizing and saying she didn't mean it.
we would see that maybe we were not the people we are today. And I'm sure many of you across the country understand how difficult divorce is on a family. There's emotions. We say things.
Pete was going through a divorce at the time that she wrote that.
And I wrote that in haste. I wrote that with deep emotions. I wrote that out of love. And about 2 hours later, I retracted it with an apology email, but nobody's seen that. I want to say something about the media. And part of today is to discredit the media and how they operate. When they contact you, I let a few phone calls go, but then they called.
And I agree with you. And I'll tell you, there's a concept that, you know, when someone is angry, they say the things that they wouldn't otherwise say. They speak truth that they wouldn't otherwise speak. There is a concept like that, which I think has truth to it. I think it has truth to it. I don't think that's an untrue thing. And perhaps some of the things she said were in truth. The retraction coming later that day, as opposed to years later, or coming now as a cleanup job, does have some sort of impact as far as like, okay, you know, it's not like something that she was trying to fix for media spin, but that she actually, you know, now she's lying to us when she says that, you know, she didn't really mean it, but at least she genuinely believes it and believed right away that, you know, she was regretful for making the statements. So I think the timing of her retraction is very telling. But that, I agree with you, it doesn't completely wash it away. It does not. At the end of the day, okay, so maybe to some degree, he doesn't treat women properly. He's the head of the Department of Defense. So if in his social life, if it's in a professional setting, that's one thing. But there's no complaints from Fox News and people he worked with for 10 years that there was any issue there. In his social life, perhaps he's, you know, someone who's either alpha or maybe beta type of toxic masculinity, which is not alpha. That's very toxic masculinity, which is not really a thing because masculinity is never toxic. But what people call toxic masculinity is someone who's not really a man, trying to act like a man. It's someone who's a beta trying to act like a man, and people call that toxic masculinity. But actual masculinity is having genuine confidence and strength, as is femininity. It's an element to it, right? The opposite of being masculine is not being feminine. That just means you suck at being masculine. This is a big mistake that the left frequently tries to blur that, to make you think that masculinity and femininity are opposites. That's not true. That's not true. Masculinity is exuding the best traits of men, and femininity is exuding the best traits of women, and the alluring traits of each. But it's not like being sucky as a man makes you a good woman, or being sucky as a woman makes you a good man. And that's a very deep flaw that people make, which is why I get very upset by the term toxic masculinity, because toxic masculinity just means sucky, lack of masculinity. I didn't mean to roll off in this direction here, but I think it's an important thing for everyone to understand that I've said many times before, and I'll probably say many times yet again. So it's possible that the way he treats men is genuinely through an act of masculinity that some women don't respond well to. Even if you look at that story where he's accused of assaulting a woman, it seemed to me like she was like more trying to get his attention by, by playing that she was offended than anything else. But so that's not really toxic. That's actually a reflection of genuine masculinity, not toxic masculinity. But I don't know. I've never seen him act in a social setting. I've never seen the guy in my life. And we don't know. But at the end of the day, how is any of that relevant? That's all how he manifests in a social setting, which is very different from a professional setting. And in a professional setting, there's zero complaints about how he treats women. And that's really all that matters.
Call you and say they threaten you. That's the first thing they do. Right. They say, unless you make a statement, we will publish it as is. And I think that's a despicable way to treat anyone. Threats are.
I'm just going to pause for a second and prove my point here that they are not opposites, okay? Because a genuinely masculine man has a great deal of confidence. A genuinely feminine woman has a great deal of confidence. If they were opposites, you would see completely opposite features and character traits to masculinity and femininity. But you don't. There's a great deal of overlap there with respect to the character traits. It's a question of how those character traits are manifesting in the way that the individual is conducting themselves. And that's why I'm saying those two are not at all opposites. They are simply manners for how each gender manifests the best elements of that particular gender.
Dangerous. I don't think the way you operate it feels almost criminal when reporters call you and threaten you. I don't think a lot of people know that's the way they operate. And they don't care who they hurt, families, children.
By the way, that you'd be surprised how little that has come up. Now, when they ask, I answer candidly. I don't answer these questions to the hyenas in the hallway trying to chirp at my wife and I as we walk down the hallway. I don't owe them an answer. I owe an answer to the members of the United States Senate who are going to vote for a confirmation here. And my meetings with them have been fantastic. No one has looked me in the eye and said, I have concerns and I can't vote for you. In fact, most have said, let's take a picture and I'm behind you all the way. And that's a reflection of Donald Trump and the strength of his election, but also the mandate to change something at the Defense Department. So the meetings have been great. We're going to continue doing it. We're not backing down one bit.
We're going to get into the specific allegations, but let me start with this. Do you think you're being Kavanaugh'd right now?
I had a member not 45 minutes ago look me in the eye in private, just he and I, and say, that's what they're trying to do to you. That's what they're trying to do to you. That's their playbook. Get ready for more. And they're going to make it up, just like they have so far. All anonymous, all innuendo, all rumor, nothing sourced, no verification. And they're just going to keep doing it because you're a threat to them. You're a threat to their system. You're a threat to all the things in Washington, D.C., the swamp, the things that people have rejected. You're a threat to that. And so they're coming after you. And I know that. He knows that. And when you stand firm on that, it's not difficult to just continue to fight. So, yeah, we saw what happened. But guess what happened? Kavanaugh stood up and he fought and he won. And hopefully Republicans have learned that lesson.
And Trump stood by him.
And Trump stood by him. What you're seeing right now with me is the art of the smear. It is the classic art of the smear. Take whatever tiny kernels of truth, and there are tiny, tiny ones in there, and blow them up into a masquerade of a narrative about somebody that I am definitely not. And what they never quote, and we'll get into this too, are the legions of people from who I served with in combat, multiple tours, from the multiple veterans organizations that I very proudly ran, and I really want to get into that, and my time at Fox News. They never asked the people closest to me.
No.
They never asked the people who were involved directly. And when they do, and I've got a list right here of people, and Will Cain and my hosts at Fox News have come out, all the folks on Fox Friends have all come out and said, this is not Pete. And we've worked with Pete for 10 years, every single morning, every single day. They never ask those people.
Yeah.
And that's what a smear looks like. It's a couple anonymous nuggets, usually from disgruntled people who were fired for cause, who are jealous or want a little bit of retribution. And so they peddle stuff to reporters who are not interested in the truth. They're interested in smearing someone who supports Donald Trump's agenda. Mm-hmm. It's really clear. I'm in the middle of it. But, I'm surrounded by a great team. I got a wonderful wife. We love this country. We love Jesus Christ, our Savior. And we're going to fight like hell. There's no reason to back down. Why would we back down?
That's right.
Do you know how many guys I'm hearing from right now? The guys I serve with, gals that I work with at CVA, and others, don't stop. The guys are like, it's always sir. Don't stop, sir. Please keep going.
They're behind you.
You are fighting for us. Like, you are our voice. We've never had a voice like this before.
They're not upset about your drinking.
You know what? There's an interesting one there. First of all, I've never had a drinking problem. No one's ever approached me and said, oh, you should really look at getting help for a drink. Never. I've never sought counseling, never sought help. I respect and appreciate people who do. But what do guys do when they come back from war? Oftentimes have some beers. How do you deal with the demons you see on the battlefield? Sometimes it's with a bottle. Unfortunately, tragically, for too many guys, it's with the bottle, and then it's depression, and even worse, suicide. We've got an epidemic of that in our country. Thank God, by the grace of God, I found my chapters of purpose that pulled me out of that. I found, in many ways, I found two things, my two J's. My Jenny, my wife Jennifer, changed my life. saved me. There's just no doubt about it. And my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And without those two J's, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. But
I love that answer there. I love that answer there, because finding refuge for your demons through your, your social circle there and religion, and his wife. That's all. That's all. It's good role modeling. That's what that is. So, yeah, I feel very confident given this interview there. I feel very confident that he is going to be successful in being confirmed ultimately. And I think that Charles here makes a great point. That as far as not being qualified because of infidelity, Congress has its own slush fund to pay out claims of these types of accusations. Let's open that little black book. First day of his Senate hearing. If in fact people go there. Yeah, that'd be amazing. There's no reason we shouldn't know about that. And why we don't know about it is just astonishing. It's kind of backward. And why we don't know about it is just astonishing. So, let me just scroll up a little bit here. Allegan, drive safe. He's driving home from the airport. Snowstorms be blowing. Drive safe. That's the last thing we heard from him. That's a little scary. That's a little scary. Hope you're okay, Allegan News. All right. Having no many soldiers, including tier 1 door kickers, they all have that tough side. They also know how to behave in a professional environment. Gym punching bag will take lots of hits. Yep. 100% true. Let's see. Oh. And Anthony hit me with 10 Good Lawgic memberships. And the first 10 he hit me with, following 10 people brought into the following program, becoming new followers of the following program, where they're now followers in the following. And they include your new, if you remember the following, you should please welcome. And these individuals should be expressing their gratitude to Anthony F. for bringing them into the following. And that includes Rachel Hope, Brinton Engelhart, Jay Ryan, Twisted Jack, Andy Gorski, Raygun Moo, and QL, Lisa Johnson, and Misty, as well as Chris Fry and Serene. Welcome to the following, you fun individuals. And then we had a second one from him. This is not the same thing. You see it back to back and you think, oh, wow, it's the same 10. What Joe's making a big deal about it. No, it's a second. It's the same. This is not deja vu. This is a whole new chapter. A new chapter. We already welcomed the first 10. They're in here. They're already in. They're like ancient history. They've been members forever. No, 10 new members of the following. And just in case you're wondering, if you're new member to the following, when you're watching this on a big screen TV and you see my face just like up there in your face, like, you might think, oh, that's the leader of the following. No, I am not the leader of the following. Say it with me. Joe is not the leader of the following. I'm just your host, just a host. And the following 10 people were brought in, and we in the following appreciate this. Who'd you bring us? You brought us B. Torn, Steve Perrin, Jesse T, Jimmy Dean, Really Now, SC, Newt C, Cornelius George, K. Pick, and Bakunawa. You see, for ages, we've been trying to get Bakunawa in here. I've been waiting and waiting. When is Bakunawa finally going to be brought into the font? When's it going to happen? Anthony F. made all our dreams come true. God bless you, Anthony. And welcome to the following, you fine people. Welcome indeed. Benigno says Jody Ernst and Ladybug Lindsay are the ones behind the smear campaign. Wouldn't be surprised at all. Lindsey Graham is a snake. He's a snake. But we'll see how they vote ultimately, right? You got to vote on the record. So Following cult tomato. No, 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 not at all a cult type of cult. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that. Can we talk about Rachel Zegler now? Can we talk about her? Can we talk about Rachel Zegler? Just look at this lunatic. Just look at her.
Shocked, confused as to why a majority of white women would vote for Trump. You know, why would they cut off their nose? Just
wait a second. That's not Rachel Zegler. That's just another lunatic. That's just another lunatic.
Fight their face. Hello, they are white women.
That was a fake out I did. He did a fake out. This is just some lunatic. This is setting us up for Rachel Zegler. I'm walking us into Rachel Zegler. This is just random British accented Rachel Zegler complaining about the patriarchy and about how anyone who doesn't stand with their agenda is just a terrible human being. Even if you're a white woman, all of a sudden now white women are the problem. I guess. That's
like their thing, okay? These white women are so right-wing that they believe that their whiteness will comfort, will shield them from their womanhood. White womanhood is presented as the ideal version of being a woman. And as Judith Butler says, there is kind of validation that
stay away from college. That's what she's trying to say. Just stay away. Just stay away. I don't know what that she's holding in her hand there. I don't know if that's a microphone. I don't know what the hell that is. But just stay away. Just stay away from colleges. Because I don't know who Judith Butler is. I assume it's some author or some book that, relates to some sort of cultural exploratory explanations into like the mindset of the cultural baptisms of ideology and just complete and total hot garbage
that you get from performing gender correctly. And these white women adore that. They're addicted to it. It's a feeling that
you know nothing. The hubris and arrogance sitting here talking about like white women as if there's some sort of monolith. You stupid, arrogant, ignorant buffoon. Like, I'm so tired of people just glomming together people by some random, arbitrary, intersectionality approved type of descriptive class that like, oh, because you have this skin color or this genitalia or this race or this religion or this whatever or this sexual appetite, that all of a sudden we can now classify you as if how you should be thinking. Get off your high horse, you waste of space. You're trivializing your own humanity, your own dignity by sputtering such utter nonsense and childish buffoonery with the arrogance that you understand. Oh, let me walk you through what white women are. Just stop it. Just stop it. Or how they think. If you ever hear me talking about white women, or women, or some group of people, I'm referring to a specific conduct that I'm not trying to say that this is what motivates them as far as like their emotional security. Oh my God, this is so aggravating. White women, that they think that their whiteness will shield them from their femininity, and look at the angry bitterness in her face.
just, it fills them with so much joy. So when patriarchy becomes...
What are you? You're not a white woman. What are you talking about?
more stricter, like we have seen in the USA, with the repeal of abortion rights, they lean...
I knew it was some theorist.
...further into patriarchy. Combine that with the economic conditions.
Oh, here we go with the patriarchy. Here comes the patriarchy. Here they come.
As well, unemployment, things being too expensive, women saying that they don't want to work because I'm just a girl and I just don't want to work because I'm just a girl. You're going to see more people leaning to right-wing ideologies. The
right-wing ideologies. All right, I think that's a nice precursor for us to talk about Rachel Zegler. Let's talk about Rachel. Let's talk about her. In case you're unfamiliar with who she is, in case you don't know who she is, you're a blessed individual. Let's see. Here's a little sampling of Rachel Zegler right here.
I'm a narcissist. Original cartoon came out in 1937 and a very...
She's the lead. She plays the title role in Disney's remake of Snow White. And she's castigating the original Snow White and talking about how much more advanced we are right now with the new Snow White.
I'm a narcissist. Original cartoon came out in 1937 and very evidently so.
Okay.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. And then it became like, I will elbow everyone out of the way to play the part. That people will assume is a love story just because like we cast a guy in the movie, Andrew Burnap. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
What?
Say, if I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online. And we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Becoming the leader she knows she can be. This is the most amazing thing to me. Becoming the leader that she knows she can be by complaining about the patriarchy. Maybe she and I have different concepts as to what true leadership is. But I don't know. Where I come from, being a leader, you don't establish your leadership position, your fitness for the position of leader by complaining that you're oppressed. That's just where I'm coming from. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's the mark of a true leader. Where I come from, I guess that's, people say I'm Gen X and that's a Gen X thing. But somehow, I don't know, complaining about the patriarchy doesn't seem to be the mark of a leader to me. The mark of a leader is someone who just does it, just takes leadership command because that's who they are and that's what the situation calls for. Not sitting here saying, it's about the patriarchy. They've been holding us down. Please let me be the leader. Like, what is wrong with How silly. Oh, my God. How empty and ridiculous is it to be sitting there talking about the leader she knows she can be, and it's all no more about, and I'll tell you this much, but something which I know is a little bit of a hot take. I'm going to tell you that all of Hollywood's true love stories and things like that, those are not exactly healthy perspectives as to how lives should be led in, a real world, because that's just the ephemeral happily ever after perspective that you can have at the end of a movie, which doesn't tell you what's going to happen 3 days later when they're happily ever after. But the classic, iconic storytelling perspective of, a love story is something that makes people feel good, which is kind of one of the reasons that we go to movies, is that we just want to feel good. It's sort of an escapism. And this escapism element to movies in general is one of the reasons I think that we find it so obnoxious when movies try to hit us with movies that are purporting to be escapist, end up hitting us with their perspectives of reality. The entire reason you're going to a movie, you're sitting there, you think Ocean's 11 is real? Think James Bond is real? Snow White is real? Any of the things? No, it's escapism. That we all deal with struggles in life. Sometimes you just want to take a break, not think about them, and just escape. And invest yourself into a movie and the characters and the acting. Sometimes it may be drama. Sometimes it might be fantasy. Sometimes it might be science fiction. Or some people enjoy horror. Whatever it is, there's an escapism that this is not reality. And I'm sort of suspending reality to jump into this situation. Sometimes you'll have some movies which are based on a true story, which are designed to sort of flesh out what we imagine about that story, fill in some holes for us based on the director's perspective as to how the story should be told. But as a general rule of thumb, the objective to going to a movie is that you can escape reality and not think about all the genuine realities that we deal with for 98%, if not a great deal more, of our lives. So when I have a movie that's trying to send a message to me as to what the world is supposed to be, or the whole leadership, it's just, why? When you're an actor or an actress sitting here trying to weigh in about politics, about life, about this issue, abortion, gun control, feminist movements, all this other, that's why it's so grating. It's because I'm coming to you to not deal with that. And here it is, you're taking that enjoyment and just ripping it to shreds and saying, no, you are forced during your escapist moment to hear my message as to how you're a failure at the way you're looking at life. Or that if you're one of the good ones who see things as I am, then yay, bravo, you. And that we're the good ones and everyone who disagrees with us is evil. The entire point is it's something that the public should be able to embrace without fear that they're sort of subjugating their perspectives on the world based on the fact that they're enjoying a movie, an escapist activity. And that's why these morons who sit there, especially the last people on earth, the very worst offenders for stepping into the political realm are entertainers. People who decide they're going to venture into entertainment, whether it's music is somehow less bothersome. You're sitting there and you're an actor. That is the worst abuse of your position, because we come to you to escape reality, and now you're sitting here trying to tell us how reality should be. And you're using the pulpit that you got raised up to, the platform that you're sitting there, that you're now sitting here on top of your soapbox, and you're all excited that everyone's hailing you. It's like, wow, what a great actor. Oh, he's so amazing. Oh, so beautiful. Oh, she's so talented. And you're using that platform that we put you on because of your ability to help us escape to start telling us what reality should be. That is the biggest abuse of your position. Because your position is that you are the king or queen of helping us escape. And now that you have that popularity that you attained, you're using that popularity as a bully pulpit to basically tell people which demographic or which ideology you think must be destroyed. And that is a complete abuse of the trust and belief that society puts into you when they ascend you to that throne and saying you're one of the kings and queens of Hollywood, culture, whatever. And that's precisely where this knucklehead went. Here she is doing an interview with Gal Gadot. In the movie Snow White, she plays Snow White. Gal Gadot plays the Wicked Witch, who somehow is not as fair as Snow White, according to a mirror.
It is so far from what I know and what I'm used to, and I super enjoyed every second of it.
That's Gal Gadot describing how she was taking for the first time in her life a role where she was playing the villainess instead of the heroine.
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true. And so it's just a really incredible story for, I think, young people everywhere to see themselves in.
Snow White is running for president.
I'm launching my campaign. I am.
All right. Throwing off the shackles of the patriarchy, Rachel Zegler. I'm going to share with you some clips here brought by George the Giant Slayer, a good friend of mine, who I've been on his panels several times on Sunday afternoons. And I highly recommend that you check out his channel and subscribe to his show. He regularly covers woke culture in brought to us by courtesy of Hollywood, and he does some great breakdowns. Again, that's George the Giant Slayer, who is just he's a smart guy, he's a great guy, and he has some phenomenal dialogues on his conversation. I highly recommend you check out his channel, and I'm going to steal some of his work right now.
She said, "May you never know peace." No! Disney just released the trailer for Snow White, and I got to tell you, the movie is already dead on arrival. That's because Hollywood's new evil queen, Rachel Zegler, just cursed 76 million Americans with her heartfelt message.
Oh yeah, there was that. Perhaps I should share that with you. I probably should share that with you. You know what? Let's do it. Let's let him do it.
She said, "May you never know peace." And all because you voted for Trump. She wasn't wishing the public happy days, but 4 years of harm. And that fits right in with her pre-election day rant. And that means it's bad business for Disney.
Vote for Kamala Harris. And it's actually non-negotiable. Our rights are on the line, folks. Our reproductive rights. Come on. Go vote blue. And if you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button. I don't need your business. Thanks.
Imagine if she had said the same word.
She doesn't need your business. She don't need your business. Oh, she don't need your business. I don't need your business. If you don't vote for Kamala, I don't need your business. That's right, majority of Americans, I don't need your business. That's right. We don't need your business. Oh my God. I don't need it. Why do I need your business? You think your money's good here? No way. No, sir. No.
For Biden supporters, her butt would already be flipping burgers. Yet Disney still keeps her while they fired Gina Carano for nothing.
I just couldn't believe it. He was like, she was making fun of the transgender community and put beep, bop, boop in her bio. And I was like, that is the most ridiculous. Can you hear yourself, sir? Like, beep, bop, boop.
One day, someone's going to ask how Hollywood self-destructed, and the answer is going to be obvious. Demonizing half the country isn't a formula for winning over your customers.
Have you ever heard the expression, the customer is always right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, here I am, the customer.
That's not our policy.
Disney better tighten their belt because come next year of 2020,
great job. I don't know if he put that together or not, but that's a great clip there. No?
When Snow White premieres, there's going to be 76 million people rooting for the poison apple.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her.
She seems very happy, like a very happy person. She's a very happy person right here. You can tell she's strong. She's not beaten at all. You could hear in her voice.
And I can only hope that despite my flaws and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
If you're tired of
I'm winning. I'm really winning, okay? I'm winning.
Hollywood's hypocrisy, hit subscribe. As for Snow White star, her trailer just got released, and it was trashed by a former legendary Disney Imagineer, all while she continued her psychotic campaign instead of...
Let's pause now and check that out. We should check out the Disney trailer. The Disney trailer for Snow White. The Disney trailer.
This was my father's kingdom, a place of fairness, but the queen changed everything.
Take him away!
Your Majesty,
What did you say?
the people need some kindness.
You know,
The people need some kindness. At least if they voted for Kamala, they need some kindness. The people who voted for Kamala need some kindness. The fetuses deserve zero kindness. Zero kindness for fetuses. But the people who voted for Kamala and support trans rights, they need some kindness. Oh my God. And now Gal Gadot delivers the line that Disney has been thinking for the last several months. Gal Gadot delivering the line that Disney's definitely thinking right now.
People need some kindness. You know, I really don't remember you being this opinionated.
Really don't remember you being this opinionated. When did that happen? When did that happen? Oh my God. I don't remember you being this opinionated. That's relatively new. That's relatively new.
Magic mirror on the wall. Who is the fairest of them all?
You, by a landslide. No one else in this kingdom is nearly as fair. End the movie. Oh my God. Oh my, and that's not to say that physically, you know, if she basically was, you know, in a coma, that, you know, Rachel Zegler is a hideously disfigured individual. But it's like, I mean, come on. Come on. Most people are like, they're not really swallowing. Not really swallowing what the mirror is about to be delivering here. Not really. I mean, a little bit of a difficult time digesting what the mirror is about to say now.
Famed is thy beauty, majesty. But the lovely maiden I now behold.
I look at you, and I just want to be the fairest of them all.
The queen is evil. You must flee into the woods.
My parents always said this forest was a magical place.
Now, when I first saw this, I was like, so wait, I vaguely recall there being this whole intersectionality of different race, different raced Asians. There were different race dwarves. That there was. That's what I remembered there being. That's what I thought was coming here. I was like, oh yeah, this is. I think I saw some clip where they were showing that they had black dwarves and Asian dwarves. Which, if you ask me, I'll tell you right now, Asian dwarf is racist. But that's a very racist. It's a very, very racist thing. It's a very, very racist thing, and I do not abide by racism. Seriously, I don't abide by racism. But yeah, so yeah, that's what I was expecting to happen. I was not expecting this.
Hello? Is there anybody here?
What the heck is that? What is that? What is that? What is that? You give us very obvious CGI. You can't. It's like this is like a reject, like a bunch of Target rejected garden gnomes. That's the dwarves. That's the dwarves. Seriously. You know where I wanted this? I wanted this in Harry Potter. Okay? I wanted this in Harry Potter. I want to see these little things being ripped out of the ground, swung over Ron's head, swung over George and Fred's head, and flung into the next garden. That's where I'd be fine with CGI. That's where I'd be fine with it. Okay? That would have been amazing. That would have been great. Just swing around and then have them like all land and then just start being like all woozy and trying to find their way back to their holes. That would have been great. That would have been great. Not when they are title characters. It's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Their title characters are CGI. Oh my God, Peter Dinklage, you ruined the world, Peter Dinklage. You ruined the world. You ruined the world. He ruined the world. In case you're wondering what I'm talking about, Peter Dinklage, famous for being very outraged about the notion that there are all these dwarves getting roles in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and saying that that's, I don't know, heightist or whatever they call that whole thing, or some sort of istist thing that we should strip those job opportunities from other dwarves. Yeah, I made my killing doing the whole Game of Thrones thing. Everyone loves me now, but all the other little people should remain little people, both literally and figuratively, and never rise and ascend to the recognition that I have. That's essentially what Peter Dinklage did. And because of that, I'm pretty sure that's why Disney said, oh, no, we don't want to offend Peter Dinklage. We can't offend Peter Dinklage. Oh, no. Well, what are you going to do? People are going to think that we're all sort of like, you know, we're anti-midgets or something here, so we're going to make sure not to hire any of them, and instead we're going to have cheesy CGI that we're going to use for title characters. And I know they didn't call it and the Seven Dwarfs, they just call it Snow White, but we all know it's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It's not Snow White and the evil queen, okay? It's not. It's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So don't tell me this is just so terrible. So terrible. Oh my God.
Wait. It's a human.
What did you think I was?
Nothing. Ghost.
You'll be safe from the Queen here.
The Queen stole everything from all of us.
We're gonna need your help.
It's time to restore our king.
We're going to look at the comments in a moment. The comments of this trailer, because they're glorious. The comments are glorious. And one of the better ones is, all I see, I never thought Snow White was supposed to look like Lord Farquaad. And once you see it, you really can't unsee it. You really can't unsee it.
Waiting on a wish, holding out for someday, hoping somehow, some way, there comes a miracle.
Find Snow White.
I close my eyes and see the girl I meant to be. This is our kingdom, but now we're here to take it back.
You were saying.
I'm sorry, my dear. Did I frighten you?
Or CGI. Comments on this are amazing. First and foremost, 20,000 likes, 409,000. This went up yesterday. 409,000, 20-1 dislikes. 20 to Oh my God. Oh my God. Yes, it's in light mode. If I have everything in dark mode, I can't tell X from YouTube, okay? I got my X in dark mode. See? I keep my X in dark mode. X in dark mode. X in dark mode. I have to have some distinction to find things easier. One, immediately pause video. Two, read comment section. Why is Lord Farquaad playing Snow White? At this point, the comment section is the real magic mirror. Nice. Nice. I like that. People clicked on the video not to watch the trailer, but to read the comment section. At this point, the monetization of this video is going to earn Disney more revenue. Disney more revenue than the movie itself will. Wow, Disney, you truly are incredible. It took you 3 years, multiple rewrites, unnecessary CGI, and $209 million just for me to enjoy a comment section of a movie I'll never watch. Bless you. This trailer saved my dad. He had been in a coma for 8 months, and when I played this trailer, he woke up, got out of bed, turned it off. Dislike racial comments restored some faith in humanity. Someone in the comments section said Lord Rachel Zegler looks like Lord Farquaad. I know I can't unsee it. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the bravest of them all? Disney for not locking the comment section. I think that's going to happen eventually. Evil Queen to Mirror. Describe Snow White to me. Mirror. Weird. Weird. I don't know if you heard, but that's what she's like. She was like, you know, and the prince in the original 1937 is, you know, her love interest is actually a stalker. Weird. Weird. Like, weird. Oh my God. The woman told me she didn't want my business and that I never know peace, so no thank you, Disney. You know, it'd be a real improvement. Hire real dwarves and CG Snow White. That could fix it. That's pretty good. Disney coming to a theater near you. Me? Is that a threat? This is so good. God. The majority spoke in the comment section. We want to see the evil queen win. 400,000 downvotes. Probably more comments on YouTube than tickets sold. Rachel Zegler. Snow White is not going to be saved by the prince. The prince. Good? Because I'm here for your stepmother. That's really good. That's really, really good. That's so funny. Yeah. So apparently people are not too enamored. Not too enamored. No, nobody's ever rooted for Poison Apple until this movie. Go, Apple, go. Oh, God. Well, anyway, this is what this woman wrote. After the election, she put on Instagram, I find myself speechless in the midst of this, another 4 years of hatred, leaning us toward a world I do not want to live in, leaning us towards a world that would be hard to raise my daughter in, leaning us toward a world that will force her to have a baby she doesn't want because she's obviously going to be someone who sleeps around a lot, leaning us toward a world that is fearful. I shouldn't be this shocked, but I am. I'm heartbroken for my friends who awoke fear this morning, and I'm here with you to cry, to yell, to hug, to wax poetic on how the left continues to fail us in forging a new path forward. This loss should not have been, and it certainly should not have been by so many votes. I echo Ethel Kane's statement more than anything. May Trump supporters and Trump voters and Trump himself never know peace. There's also a deep, deep sickness in this country that is shown in the sheer amount of people who showed up for this man who threatens our democracy. It's terrifying, the number of people who stand behind what this man preaches. It is a foolish subscription to a false sense of security, of masculinity, of intelligence, of patriotism, and of humanity. There is no help, no counsel in any of them. I could go on. I won't. I feel sad. You probably do too. F this. Get off of Elon's app, by the way. The heck are you doing? They're eating you up on Twitter. I don't use that app for a reason. He helped get that man elected, and you're giving him business. I was talking about finding catharsis in art. I don't care if you're going to pick a fight with me. It's been done before. Find something real to be mad at today. There's plenty to go around. Okay, that's all. Going on stage for Act 2 now. I need to get off my soapbox before I get too heated. Sending love to everyone who needs it today. May we all carry each other through the worst and hold these politicians accountable. Your Democratic governors just got very important. They already were, but hey, follow your governors. Hold them accountable. Local government is where we're going to make real change. This is not the end, ever. I will love through these 4 years as best I can. F Donald Trump. This didn't go well for her. No, because apparently when the buck meets the road, Rachel Zegler's principles kind of fall out the window, because Rachel Zegler apologizes for her election post wishing Trump voters never know peace. I let my emotions get the best of me. Oh, boo-hoo, her emotions. It's not her fault. She's a victim of the patriarchy. She walked back her reaction to Donald Trump's re-election on Friday, writing on social media that she let my emotions get the best of me in a prior post that slammed Trump voters. Unbelievable. When the buck meets the road, all of a sudden, I guess she could stand to live in this world for another 4 years, as long as she's being adequately compensated for it. Because she's a real leader. She's a leader in the fight against the patriarchy. The patriarchy that's coming for her, that's held her down, that's ruined her life. Quote, I would like to sincerely apologize for the election post I shared on Instagram last week. I let my emotions get the best of me. Hatred and anger have caused us to move further and further away from peace and understanding, and I'm sorry I contributed to the negative discourse. Words written by her publicist. Words written. It's too late, honey. It's too late. We all know how you feel. You told us to unfollow you. You told us you don't need our money. You don't need us to follow us. You don't need our business. You told us that we should never know peace. We know how you feel. We know exactly how you feel. You made that position very, very clear. Don't worry. You were rather articulate in the levels of hate and animus that you feel for half the country. Let's go back now to George. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything here. Joe doesn't know anything about that. It's no white privilege. Imagine telling someone in the 90s that this would be the reality now. South Park reality is more reasonable now. I was going to see, here's the thing. I would show you South Park. South Park did a really great lampoon of how Disney is basically replacing everyone with, that Cartman was afraid he was going to be replaced by some Asian woman or something. And he's having nightmares to that effect. It looked really funny. I didn't see the whole episode. I saw clips of it. It looked pretty funny. But if I show it to you, I know that this video is going to be demonetized and I'm going to have to shove it out. And I just don't need it because South Park and whoever owns them, I don't know, it's Comedy Central, whoever the heck owns them, basically, they're very, very possessive over like even 20 seconds of content. That's why I was advocating and praising Megyn Kelly for not doing something like that, because she could, but doesn't. I'm assuming George the Giant Slayer is not going to do it to me either, because he's a friend. Please do dark mode, blinding, and bedroom on TV. Cutting costs with the short ones to help make money. I don't think that's what it is. I think they cost them more. I think they have to change everything. I think it costs them more. Let's go back to George.
Positively promoting her movie. And this time, a fake apology won't just piss people off. It's going to blow a hole in Disney's bottom line.
Okay.
So you can really tell. Rachel Zegler doesn't really do the big things like love, kindness, or regret. But when it comes to hate, oh boy. Hate, that's her jam, and she just spread it all over Instagram for the world to see.
I find myself speechless in the midst of this. Another 4 years of hatred leaning us towards a world I do not want to live in. Leaning us towards a world that will be hard to raise my daughter in. Leaning us towards a world that will force her to have a baby she doesn't want. Leaning us towards a world that is fearful.
Just for the record, Rachel doesn't have a daughter, not even an imaginary one.
She's delusional.
Rachel continued hyperventilating because her rage wasn't satisfied, so she simply doubled down.
I shouldn't be this shocked, but I am. I echo Ethel Cain's statement. May Trump supporters and Trump voters and Trump himself never know peace.
Well, there you have it. That's Disney's idea of a modern day princess. Someone who doesn't have a problem cursing millions of people that she's never met. Not even once tried to reach out to them and say, hey, let's talk so I can try to understand you. She didn't do that. Instead, she continued to insult them by saying that America sucks, democracy and patriotism sucks, men suck worst of all. And guess what? Everyone sucks but her. Yet Zegler still can't figure out why nobody supports her.
Weird. I'm a narcissist. I say, if I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
Let's address the elephant in the room. I'm the hottest person in the world.
You know, you'd think that one day Rachel would be grateful, just show a little bit of class for being plucked out of obscurity and then cast as Snow White. But since day one, the only thing she's done is flip-flop between how much she hates the classic fairy tale princess and then backpedaling to save her behind by becoming one of Hollywood's biggest hypocrites.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird.
The cartoon is so beloved. It's like a monumental moment in film history.
Yeah.
It was like the first feature-length cartoon movie, to the point where it won honorary Oscars and all of these amazing things that happened for that film are the reason that you and I really get to sit here today. Because it
So all of a sudden she appreciates Snow White now, even though it's about some stalker.
made Disney what it is.
The bottom line, Rachel Zegler is a wannabe D-list actress with no hit films, not a single one. Yet she thought it was going to be a smart idea to brand 46% of the women in the United States who actually voted for Trump, plus Disney's audience, as insecure, bigoted, and stupid. And just in case they didn't receive her message loud and clear, she joined Hollywood's latest hate crusade.
You are gangsters. You are gangsters. Last time, only a few thousand votes kept Trump out of office. And this time, we will hold you personally responsible.
You know what? We should be emotional.
Gosh, I'm so enjoying thinking about all their tears that they've had for the last month. How they're all tearing their clothing and wearing the sackcloth and shaving their heads, and that they're all so miserable. They spent so long just telling us how we have to vote, how we have to vote. And America said, you are insignificant. You don't matter. And that's the last thing that any of these people ever want to hear and come to reality with.
We should be upset. We should be scared and out.
Come to grips with it. No one cares about you, honey. No one cares about your opinions. Just shut up and sing.
We should. Our pain matters. We matter.
The Nazis love Trump.
I mean, this lunatic, this buffoon. God, I mean, imagine if he was standing there in his green makeup, just screaming, "The Nazis!" That would work better. That would work better.
Okay? They love him.
If we don't show up tomorrow, it is entirely possible that we will not have the opportunity to ever cast a ballot again.
Liar, liar, your pants are on fire.
This is the kind of stuff that alienates an electorate, that alienates a vote.
Stephen A. Smith gets it. He's like, you guys were so off-putting, everything about you.
Or voter. Because the freedom that you tell them they have, you try to confiscate morally by letting them know you ain't worth a damn unless you vote the way we say you should vote. Who's going to go for that in a general election?
I was wrong. Will continue to be wrong.
Weird.
I found throughout life that those who preach tolerance the loudest are usually the most intolerant people on the planet. And Rachel didn't disappoint. She was all too happy to prove me right. She decided to go back to her Instagram page, and she ended her meltdown predictably.
This is not the end. Ever. I will love through these 4 years as best I can. Donald Trump.
Her reaction really shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone. Actors, they say whatever comes out of their mouth. But I'm okay with that. Actors, like everybody else, can vote how they like.
Anyway, I don't want to steal his entire content. I'm going to leave a link to this and highly recommend that you all sign up and support George because he does some great work. And Also want to, while I'm throwing out there, if you enjoy people covering woke culture from Hollywood, exposing it, I recommend both him and Valiant Renegade. There's two channels that produce grade A content. I'm going to throw this in the description right here, so you can all find the full video from George the Giant Slayer. From George. He's a big supporter of my show here, big fan of my work, and the respect is certainly mutual. So put this in here. Stream it completely. So now it's in YouTube. You can find a link to it there, and also putting a link to the YouTube page in Rumble. That's done now. All right, a couple of small things I wanted to cover before I get on out of here. Small little things to cover. Small things. And you're very welcome for the chat. I had a good time talking with you, Michael. Hope I was able to help. What did I have for you? Small little things before we get on out of here. All right, you all know about Daniel Penny. He's awaiting a verdict in his trial. That's the individual who's defending himself for engaging in defense of others and accidentally ended up killing the subway performer. And all of a sudden that raised all these hues and cries of racism and all that other nonsense there, as if he was like a second coming of Rodney King or something. Well, the prosecutor here is a woman by the name of Daphne Yoren. Daphne Yoren. Yoren. It's probably pronounced Yoren. She talks about how she reduced. This is her take on a different case from Daphne Yoren, district attorney or assistant district attorney Daphne Yoren. This is her take about what she thinks is justice. Prosecuting Daniel Penny, not this one though.
So I'm going to give you an example of something that I did with a recent case of mine, and this has never been done in my office. I had a murder case where the defendant did not intentionally kill the victim. He went into an ATM on the Upper West Side and tried to rob an individual. Unfortunately, it was an older individual. He was 86. And in the course of the robbery, he fell to the ground. And as a result, he died.
Classic felony murder. Classic felony murder. You're trying to rob someone. You're looking to get their money. And during the course of what she doesn't label, I'm sure, was a struggle where this guy gets thrown to the ground, this 86-year-old. I'd bet anything that that's what actually happened here. But if someone accidentally dies, you didn't mean to kill them. You weren't going there to kill. We take your intent to commit a felony of robbery and attach that intent to the death of the individual as if you intended to kill that person. It's called felony murder, and it gets the same level of murder as if you went there with an ambition of killing them. We say because you created this whole dangerous situation of committing a felony, that now obviates the whole intent thing, or we carry over that intent to say that the death of this person was intentional on your part. You started this entire sequence of events by deciding to engage in a felony. Clearly, when there's a felony going on, the likelihood of people dying is greatly increased. And thus, you don't get a manslaughter accidental death when someone accidentally dies during the commission of a felony. You get a full murder too, which includes intent to kill the individual, even though that we know that was not your intent. As she's about to admit, that's a felony murder.
This is, under the law, a felony murder, which is akin to intentional murder.
And that's the law throughout the country. New York, one of those states in the country where felony murder is murder, not homicide. negligent manslaughter.
However, when I first got the case, I learned, I took the time to learn about the defendant. And it was a strong case. So it wasn't about a whodunit. I knew immediately who did it. I could prove it. I could take it to trial that day and win it.
I could have him in jail for the rest of his life that day. It's very easy case.
But it wasn't about that. It was that the more I learned about the defendant and his life and the circumstances, the kinds of things that Jarrell was talking about, that one should take into account the trauma of that individual, I really felt incredibly sorry for him that he had gotten to that point in his life where he felt like there was no other choice but to commit this robbery.
So he should be in jail forever, but I'm a woke activist, so that's not happening. Justice for the victim, the victim's families. People like this need to be fired. This is why you don't have justice, because the people who are charged with the responsibility of ensuring justice willfully neglect that duty, disregard that duty. You know, they go into court and they sit there and say all sorts of things like don't engage in jury nullification. If the law is the law, you have to follow the law. But if I'm a district attorney, I decide I don't want to follow that law. Well, to hell with that. I mean, you tell me, okay, and I'm not advocating anyone to engage in jury nullification. I'm definitely not advocating for that. I think that, you know, the law is the law. You're supposed to uphold the law. But how dare you have the audacity to come out and start claiming that jury nullification is a problem when you have this clown over there with her clown glasses and her clown hair and her clown perspectives on the world coming out there and saying, oh, well, I decided to look at the circumstances here and I decided that, hey, it's a tragedy that this perpetrator came to this situation where they felt the necessity to engage in murdering some 86-year-old. And, you know, terrible tragedy. He didn't want the person to die. So I decided that even though this is an easy felony murder that I could get done in 10 seconds today without any further research and get a unanimous jury to recognize that, oh my God, we need to send this lunatic away forever because who knows who else he's going to end up harming. I decided to sick him on society and say, well, he's a tragic figure here, and therefore I'm not going to prosecute him the way the law directs me to prosecute him. And I have that power to do that. So you tell me, someone explain to me, why is it that a jury should not disregard the law and impart whatever justice they think is appropriate, irrespective if district attorneys are empowered and authorized and feel that they have a license to apply the law as indiscriminately as they so desire? Why does a district attorney have a better sense of justice than a jury? I challenge anyone watching this now, afterwards. You can clip this and show it up there on X, on Facebook, on Instagram. You can put it wherever you want. Someone give me an answer. Why is it that if clowns like this moron over here, who's sitting here saying, I'm going to impart justice and decide what justice should be based on the fact that I'm not going to charge someone with the crimes that we know that they have committed because I feel bad for them, and to hell with the victim of his crimes, I'm going to impart whatever justice I feel is appropriate, not what the law says is appropriate, what I feel is appropriate. If a district attorney like Daphne Yoren is able to just make those decisions for society, why are 12 of that perpetrator's peers any less empowered or morally any more morally bankrupt than this woman here who decides that she knows what the law is, irrespective of what our legislature said, irrespective of what the will of the people is when they elected those members to their state legislature, irrespective of all that, she's deciding what the law should be based on what her feels dictate. If she has that license and authority, explain to me why a jury shouldn't say, hey, that's one person's perspective. We got 12 of us here. It's a better representation of what society thinks than any one individual. The law is the law, or the law is not the law. It's that simple. And if a district attorney, and she's far from the only one, if a district attorney has license and empowerment or jurisdiction, authority, or any sort of moral clarity that she feels is above the law, then there is no law. There is no law. There's just random decisions from people who are granted way too much power, more power than they should have. You are a servant of the people. It's not up to you. You're charged with following the law. Same way a jury is charged with following the law, you too are charged with following the law. And that means that you engage in following and executing the law, because you're the last line of defense to ensure that people are actually going to uphold the law. People see that you're just going to sit there and say, I'm not going to charge someone because he's poor, and I feel bad for this person that he's in this life circumstance where he ends up killing folks. Well, in that case, there's no law being upheld. It's disgusting. Why DA thinks they can change the law like legislators, separate powers means nothing to them. Yep. In Florida, a 6-year-old would increase the charges popcorn murder case. In New York, if you're old and have money, you should just give it to the poor person robbing you. Apparently. It's weird how people are fleeing the state. Father killed his daughter's killer. That would be the same thing. Why not? Just make up whatever law you want. What you think is justice, that's what's justice now. So, I got that off my chest. That's something. You guys are my therapy. This is where I get it out of my system. Whatever anger builds up inside of me, I unload it on you all, and you listen so attentively. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Here's another idiot who makes me mad. This Stephanie Rule. I only know her name because she did that stupid interview of Kamala, a joke interview.
Has been that Joe Biden has politicized and weaponized the DOJ, right? That was the whole.
This is Stephanie Rule in June of 2024.
Argument around Donald Trump's conviction. And this week, of course, Hunter Biden was found guilty, and Joe Biden has very clearly said he would not pardon his son. He would not commute his sentence. How can Republicans keep making this argument now that Joe Biden has really put it out there? For 4 years, Fox News has been, where's Hunter? And he stood there in a courtroom, flanked by his family, and he's accepted his sentence. Now, we have heard a lot of
this is December, same year,
takes about this pardon over the last day. But it is important to remember a few things. This has absolutely no impact on what Donald Trump has done or will do in the future. It
really
just gives him a new talking point for the next few days.
That's all it does.
President Biden has a right to do this.
He has the legal right to do it. He has the legal right to do it.
It is in the Constitution. If you win the White House, you win the power of the pardon.
Zero shame. I will tell you this, something you probably haven't thought of, may not have realized. Remember, we went through that pardon the other day and read through what he wrote there. And it's quickly coming back to bite the Democrats in the behind. Let me see if I can pull that up again. Let's find a copy of the pardon. Copy of pardon. Let me see if I can pull that up here. I'll trust that the BBC got it correct. Today, I signed a pardon for my son Hunter from the day I took office. I said I would not interfere with the Justice Department decision making. I kept my word, even as I've watched my son being selectively unfairly prosecuted. By whose DOJ? Who did that? Who did that? Who did that? Which DOJ? Who's in charge of the DOJ? Who? Without aggravating factors like crime, multiple purchases, blah, 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 blah. Those who were late pay their taxes. It's clear that Hunter was treated differently. What's he saying here? He's saying that the DOJ was wrongfully politically weaponized. Your DA, the president, is admitting that his own DOJ was politically weaponized. Well, if the result would have been exactly what I wanted it to be with that whole plea deal, and he would have faced no repercussions, in that case, everything would have been fair and reasonable. That would have been okay. But no reasonable person who looks at the facts of Hunter's case can reach any other conclusion Hunter was singled out because he's my son. That's wrong. Oh, so you're saying that it's politically weaponized because of who you are, because politically it was weaponized. This is an admission that your DOJ is politically weaponized. His own DOJ. That's what he's saying. My DOJ is politically weaponized. Oh, that's really interesting. That's really interesting. This is an interesting admission from the president of the United States that his own DOJ is politically weaponized. Well, today, Donald Trump and in the New York criminal action, acting through his attorneys, future deputy attorney general Todd Blanche, put in an application to have the New York case dismissed. And he said, you know why it should be dismissed? You want to know why it should be dismissed? Well, because the president of the United States admitted the other day that his DOJ has been politically weaponized. He admitted it, hoisting Biden and the prosecuting attorneys on their own petard. And while it's true that technically the New York case doesn't involve the DOJ, one cannot break from the reality that members of the DOJ left the DOJ to come to New York for the purposes of prosecuting Donald Trump. Specifically, attorney named Colangelo stepped down from the DOJ to a much lesser position, specifically to join the stepped down from the DOJ specifically to join the New York District Attorney's Office so that he could participate in prosecuting Donald Trump. That's right. He left, and this part of the DOJ, the weaponized, politically weaponized DOJ, branched out into New York State's District Attorney's Office for the purposes of coming after Biden's political opponent. He also cites how Jack Smith, when he was scurrying for the hills and withdrawing his application to appeal the Florida case, as well as the ongoing, or what was ongoing at the time, litigation in Washington, D.C. in the January 6th insurrection case, not that he alleged insurrection, but that when he withdrew those cases, that he said, hey, now that Trump has won, we think that under the presidential election perspectives, that since he's an elected figure, that I think that we're not allowed to prosecute or try and bring criminal repercussions against the person who's been elected president of the United States. So in their application in New York to try and obtain an overturning of the guilty verdicts, not convictions, overturning the guilty verdicts as well as dismissal of all charges in New York, the two citations that come on page one are Hunter Biden admitting that his own DOJ has been politically weaponized and Jack Smith saying, you're really not supposed to prosecute someone once they're elected. This was just amazing. It's hilarious. And by the way, just to remind you all that he's not a convicted felon. I brought this up on X, sent out a whole a whole tweet about this, trying to explain to everyone about it. I've been going back and forth with Nate, back and forth with my good friend Nate the lawyer, who I love and respect, genuine friend, and I genuinely love and respect. Great, he's a great person, very smart attorney. He's the one who pointed out something to me from the New York criminal procedural law that he thinks proves that he's a convicted felon. And I'm like, that is the perfect statute that shows he's not a convicted felon. He went back and forth here. He's trying to show me his gravitas about how he was a prosecutor. So he was, when a guilty verdict came from the judge, enters the verdict in the record. Really? CPLS 38020. This is what he said to me. Triggers sentencing phase. The court must schedule a sentencing. 3830. I pulled this up. Yeah. Then the final judgment, known as judgment of conviction, sentencing plus conviction, is entered. No. He said I'm confusing a judgment of conviction with a conviction finding of guilt or plea. Gosh. Anyway, I pulled up 3820. I'll pull it up for you now, so you realize that I got it right. I got it right. And this is how you can just remind all of your friends, all the crowing idiots who are either too stupid or too evil to admit the truth or recognize the truth, that indeed he is not a convicted felon. Because if he was, he would have been sentenced. Here's your statute right here. New York CPL 3820. The court must pronounce sentence in every case where a conviction is entered. Conviction is entered. You must sentence him. Why didn't Mershon sentence him? Because conviction has not been entered and never will be entered. There's no conviction whatsoever. You have a guilty verdict. That's it. An accusatory instrument contains multiple counts, and a conviction is entered on more than one count. Once you get a conviction on more than one count, you must pronounce sentence on each count. Where's your conviction? Where's your sentence? Why don't we see a sentence? I don't understand. Oh, you know why? Because he's not a convict. He's not a convict. That's just reality. So anyone who thinks he is convicted, you can ask him, well, you think Mershon broke the law? He failed to sentence him? Because under the law, he's obligated to sentence him, and that hasn't happened. So I don't know what's going on here. Yes, the answer is very simple. All right. I think I covered everything we needed to cover. I think we got it all, right? We did it all? Oh, thank you, honeybee. Witnesses to the prosecution were even allowed to describe Penny as the white man. I don't know who it is, but it's the white guy. Whoever the white guy was. He said it's on the verdict, not the judgment. Right. You have to overturn a judgment. Trump voted in the 2024 election. He would have been barred if he was convicted. That's exactly, that. He wouldn't be able to get a gun. There's all sorts of issues with claiming that he's convicted. All right. Do a double check here. Make sure I didn't miss anything. I didn't. We're good there. I'm good here. And I think it's time for me to start landing the plane. That's our show. Almost 3 hours of work we put in tonight. I think it's time for me to wrap this up, turn off my lights, and start moseying on along. You need to be, please hit like and subscribe. Please, for the love. Please. What do you need? Do you need the cartoon? Doesn't work without the cartoon. Here's your cartoon. Okay, there he is. See, he's running. He's running. Here he is. There's the angry cartoon version of me. There's a little version of me. That's the Snow White and the Seven Dwarf version of me. The CGI version. That's telling you to subscribe. So please like and subscribe. Also, remember that lab meat it's for they, them. It's not meant for you. It's not meant for you. It never was meant for you. The whole thing is a joke. It's a joke. It's like, let's see if we can produce meat in a lab. It's a joke. It's not meant for consumption. You think that some chemist throws some things into like a bottle, you're just going to start drinking that? You're going to put a hole in your stomach. I'm not saying that that's what lab meat will do to you, but it's meant for they, them. A lot of people speculating, how did they, them become they, them? I don't really think that's probably how it happens. I don't, there's probably other issues beyond eating lab meat. But one thing we know is it's meant for they, them. It's not meant for you. And, also, one more thing I might have forgotten to mention to you, which I should get off my chest, is don't eat the bugs. Don't eat the bugs. Don't do it. Don't eat the bugs. That's my show. I'll see you all tomorrow. Till then, good night and Godspeed.